Yoon Chujio was good at reading people's expressions. She could tell that none of the masters of the fifth house looked up to Emo shouting or her. Even their greetings were perfunctory. They were probably afraid that the fifth elder would blame them. Otherwise they probably wouldn't have come. Although Emo shouting was unhappy, he still took out the gifts he had prepared. Seeing that the gifts were quite generous, the smiles on the faces of the people from the fifth house became warmer. Whether it was the fifth elder or the older ladies, none of them had any intention of giving Yoon Chujio a greeting gift. Yoon Chujio's eyes flickered for a moment before she continued to smile coquettishly. Emo shouting was originally worried that the greedy Yoon Chujio would take the initiative to ask for a greeting gift. But seeing that she did not react, he finally let out a sigh of relief. After the small talk, it was time for the banquet to begin. Yoon Chujio looked at the food on the table and her eyes lit up. Although the people in the fifth ward weren't that good, the food looked good and smelled quite good. After the fifth elder exchanged a few pleasantries, the banquet began. The banquet was naturally filled with alcohol. Emo shouting had just arrived, so it wasn't easy for him to reject the invitation. He quickly became a little tipsy. Yoon Chujio's eyes flashed. Was he trying to get the old fox to speak the truth after drinking? TSK, these people were really stupid. Although the old fox's spiritual power wasn't high, he wasn't any less shrewd than these people. It was likely that he was just pretending to be drunk. As expected, Emo Xiaoan began to discuss business matters with Emo shouting. Although Emo shouting said a lot, it was all insignificant details that made Emo Xiaoan frown in anger. Yoon Chujio's table was filled with women. Emo Zion's wife, old Madame Wang, smiled and asked, "Fong Chao, I heard that you came up with many good ideas for Guangshan's business? You are so smart. You are much better than my granddaughters." The faces of the girls present turned ugly as they looked at Yoon Chujio with an even more unfriendly gaze. A lowly person from the Western continent was better than them? What a joke. Thus, before Yoon Chujio could answer, a girl wearing a pink dress said arrogantly, "Grandmother, although Sister Fangkeo's business is not bad, her spiritual power is too low. The most important thing for us cultivators is to cultivate, and everything else is secondary. Sister Fangchao, you should focus on cultivating in the future." Sister Fangjiao is right. My spiritual power is too low. I can't even lift my head in front of my sisters. Yoon Chujio lowered her head and said with self-pity. Emo Fangjiao heard Yoon Chujio's words. Her expression became a little better. It's good that you know. The spiritual power in our Eastern continent is much denser than that in the Western continent. You should take this time to cultivate properly. It's not a wasted trip to the Eastern continent. Yes, thank you for your guidance, Sister Fangjiao. After Yoon Chujio finished her words obediently, she picked up her chopsticks and directly picked up half of the fish and placed it into her bowl. She happily ate it. The fish was fresh and tender, and the taste was really not bad. When the other girls in the seat saw this, they all felt disdain in their hearts. As expected, she was a lowly person from the Western continent. One look and they could tell that she had never eaten good food before. She was just a good-for-nothing. Seeing this, old Madame Wang frowned slightly. She originally wanted to ask a few more questions, but now it seemed that there was no need to ask anymore. Everyone's impression of Yoon Chujio was basically fixed. She had just arrived and had already started fighting with a butler. She had a reckless personality and was even a bit of a scoundrel. In addition, she had low spiritual power, was stingy, and was gluttonous. Other than being able to do some business, she had no other redeeming qualities. "You'd better come to our shop to have a look at the rouge powder. You look so beautiful. If you use some of the rouge powder in our shop, you'll definitely be even more beautiful and moving." Yoon Chujio felt that she was like the flesh of a monk. These people wished they could come up and bite her. She smiled and said to the crowd, "Everyone, don't be anxious. I still have a lot of things to buy. I'm sure you all know that I'm a branch of the Mo family in the Western continent. I'm here to attend the wedding banquet. There's a reason why I bought so many things. Forget it. I won't say anymore. I won't say anymore." Yoon Chujio covered her mouth as if she was shocked to realize that she had let the cat out of the bag. She quickly covered her mouth and did not say anything. The curiosity of the onlookers was immediately aroused. One by one, they stretched their necks and shouted, "Miss, it's not proper to talk halfway. Why did you buy so many things?" Yun Chujo shook her head. "I can't talk nonsense. I was talking about Baloo just now. Let's not talk anymore. I'll go to your shop to buy some rouge powder." As Yun Chujo said that, she entered a rouge powder shop and began to choose the rouge powder that she liked. The manager of the rouge shop was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. He started to introduce the shop. Yun Chujo was as forthright as usual. "Okay, put these on for me. I'll buy them all." The manager saw Chun Xiao go to the shop assistant to count the rouge powder that Yun Chujo had bought. He asked Yun Chujo in a low voice, "Miss, why did you spend so much money to buy so many things?" "Don't worry. After you tell me, I definitely won't tell anyone." Yun Chujo looked around, then she lowered her voice and said, I see that you're also a person who keeps his word. Then I'll tell you. To tell you the truth, you've also seen that I'm a teenage girl. This definitely belongs to the younger generation in the Mo family. I originally thought that when I came this time, those elders would at least give me a greeting gift no matter what. After all, my grandfather had prepared a very generous gift for them. Who would have thought that I didn't even get a melon seed skin? There was no one who gave me a greeting gift at all. I was also a person who loved face. If I returned to the Western continent and someone asked me, how could I have the face to say that I didn't get anything? On the one hand, I was embarrassing myself. On the other hand, I was also embarrassing my own family, so I planned to buy some things from my own pocket. When I went back, I would tell others that this was a gift from my own family. I will only tell you about this matter. You must not tell anyone else. If others find out that it was me who said it, my grandfather will definitely beat me to death. The manager of the rouge shop had a burning desire to gossip in his eyes. He nodded and said, "Miss, don't worry. I will definitely not tell anyone. You are welcome to come again next time." Yun Chujo nodded and then brought Chun Xiao to the other shops to continue their sweep. The manager of the rouge shop walked around the shop a few times. He hesitated for a moment and felt that his heart was really suffocating. After hearing such explosive news, if he did not share it with others, it would be too unbearable, right? Forget it. I'll just tell Old Lee from the equipment shop next door. I believe that he won't tell anyone. As long as it doesn't spread, it doesn't count as me not keeping my word. Thus, the boss of the rouge shop went to the equipment shop next door and called Manager Lee from the equipment shop to the side. He said mysteriously, "Old Lee, I'll tell you a big secret. I know why that black fragrant grass bought so many things." The eyes of the owner of the equipment shop instantly lit up. "Old Joe, quickly tell me why." "I'm dying of curiosity. I heard from my brother-in-law's brother-in-law's sister-in-law's sister-in-law's sister-in-law that the 5 branches of the Mo family didn't even give that Mo Fengchao a greeting gift. Guang Xuanji had given every master of the Mo family a generous gift. Tiske, the 5 branches of the Mo family were really stingy. I guess Miss Fengchao bought so many things. She must have gone back to make up the scene. How pitiful." The manager of the rouge shop repeated what Yun Chujo had told him. "Ah, so it's like that. I guess the 5th branch of the Mo family doesn't look up to Guang Xuanji at all. After all, the people of the Western continent are just inferior people. They are high and mighty. How could they look up to him?" After the manager of rouge shop had satisfied his desire to gossip, he instructed shopkeeper Zhou not to tell anyone else before leaving. Shopkeeper Zhou, who was in the equipment shop, walked around the room a few times. He felt that if he didn't share such explosive gossip, he probably wouldn't be able to sleep well at night. Thus, he shared this news with shopkeeper Qi of the satin shop. Shopkeeper Qi then told shopkeeper Zhang of the snack shop about the news. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. If there was any news that spread the fastest, it would naturally be through the grapevine. Yun Chujo was well versed in this. The more she asked people to keep a secret, the more she wanted them to keep it a secret. Did the family want to keep it a secret? In their dreams, Yun Chujo did not covet what they had. After all, she and Mo Shouting had done a lot of dirty work in their business, and Mo Shouting had also given Yun Chujo a lot of spirit stones. By doing this, she wanted to attract the attention of the Mo family, just like how she had attracted Mo Ziyading's attention in the past. If there was a good wind, she could rely on her strength to send her up to the clouds. Without the wind, she would not be able to get up no matter how hard she tried. So she had to do something. Half a year had passed since the 3-year agreement. Her current level of spiritual power was only at the 4th layer of Lingxian realm. It was simply too slow. She had to jump from the western continent to the eastern continent. This was a great opportunity and she could not miss it. Yun Chuzhou brought Chun Xiao to the restaurant to buy a few good tables. Only then did she swagger back to the 5th branch of the Mo family with Chun Xiao. Yun Chuzhou took out a few pieces of rouge and powder, and gave them to Chun Xiao and Chun Yu. She then went to see Mo shouting. Yun Chuzhou took out the banquet she bought and the grandfather and grandson chatted as they ate. Feng Cao, you didn't cause any trouble when you went out, did you? Mo shouting felt a little uneasy. He didn't think that Yun Chuzhou was someone who could take it lying down. Not only did she not receive any gifts yesterday, she was even teased by a few girls from the 5th ward. It was strange that she did not react at all. Grandfather, I'm not a 3-year-old anymore. How can I be so ignorant? I've seen many things that are more novel than what we have on the Western continent, so I bought a lot of them. I'm planning to get our customers to copy them and sell them for a high price, Yun Chuzhou said in a low voice. Her voice wasn't low, so both Chun Xiao and the maids at the Listening Wind Pavilion could hear her clearly. Chun Xiao had been wondering what Yun Chuzhou had left to say on the street, but now she finally understood. This Miss Feng Chao was really good at doing business. She was always thinking about doing business. She hadn't said anything on the street before because she was afraid that the merchants would laugh at her. How pitiful. Mo shouting and Yun Chuzhou's conversation quickly reached Mo Ziyuan's ears. Although Mo Xiaoan felt that Yun Chuzhou was indeed a good material for business, he did not take it to heart. A lot of the things sold in the shop were made from materials from the eastern continent. Even if they brought it to the western continent, they wouldn't be able to replicate it. There was nothing to be afraid of. However, the next morning, the leaders of the other 4 branches of the Mo family came knocking on the door. Mo Xiaoan couldn't help but wonder, were these 4 people here to find out more about Mo shouting? Did they think he was up to something? They were really using the heart of a villain to measure the stomach of a gentleman. So when Mo Xiaoan saw the 4 people, his expression turned ugly. Why are you so free? You are a rare guest that we usually can't invite. Mo Xiaoquan, who was also the current head of the Mo family, snorted coldly. Xiaoan, I feel that you usually handle things quite safely. I didn't expect you to actually do such an inappropriate thing. It's really embarrassing. Mo Xiaoan was dumbfounded. Big brother, although you're the head of the family, you can't just label me like this for no reason. How am I inappropriate? If you don't believe us, you can take care of the business with Guang Xuanji. Mo Ziyuan's face was gloomy. He said unhappily. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Mo Ziyuan's words sounded like he didn't have any silver in his mouth. The 4 of them looked at each other and their suspicions deepened. Mo Xiaoquan scoffed, we'll talk about this later. After all, we have to check our accounts every half a year. We're not here because of business, we're here because of the way you treated Guang Xuanji. Mo Xiaoan was a little surprised. What's wrong with Guang Xuanji? I've arranged for Mo shouting and Mo Fengchao to be in the upper room. I've also arranged for them to be served with good food and drinks. I've even arranged for a welcoming banquet. Is there anything wrong with that? Mo Xiaoping from the 4th room curled his lips and said, Xiaoan, you sure know how to make yourself look good. What's wrong with that? Do you know what everyone in Fuhu City is talking about? The grandfather and grandson came all the way here, and the 5th branch just showed off their might when they met. Although you later said that it was housekeeper Zhu who made the decision on his own, no one is a fool. Does he have that much courage? It's probably because of your instructions, right? TSK, you actually let the grandfather and grandson stay in the other branch. Only you can do such a thing. Mo Xiaofu had always been dissatisfied with the 5th branch's control of the Western continent's business. Now that he finally had an opportunity, he naturally wouldn't let it go. Mo Xiaogui from the 3rd branch also echoed, that's right. Xiaoan, you really didn't handle this matter properly. That's fine, but I heard that the elders of the fifth branch actually didn't give Feng Chao girl a single greeting gift. Fifth brother, it's not that I want to criticize you, but aren't you being too petty? Guangshuanji gave you many gifts, but you actually didn't give a single cent? You really embarrassed our family. Now that the whole street is talking about this matter, I don't even have the face to go out. Emo Xiaoan was dumbfounded. After a long while he finally said, let's put housekeeper Zhu's matter aside for now. How did outsiders know that our fifth house didn't give her a greeting gift? Emo Xiaogui pursed his lips. Feng Chao girl bought a lot of things yesterday. When others asked her why she bought so many things, she refused to tell them. Then, someone guessed that it was most likely because your fifth branch didn't give her a greeting gift. That's why she bought so many things and was prepared to go back and fill up the scene. Fifth brother, as for the matter of you not giving her a greeting gift, it's probably because some servant didn't keep his mouth shut. Feng Chao didn't say anything. Xiaoan, I don't think your fifth branch is lacking in gifts, right? This matter is too inappropriate. The Mo family is considered a third-class family. If word of this gets out, other families will laugh at us. You'd better think of a way to make up for it, Mo Xiaoquan said unhappily. Mo Zioan's face alternated between green and white. He did not put Mo shouting and Yun Chuzhou in his eyes at all. He thought it was just a branch. It was already good enough for them to come to the eastern continent to broaden their horizons. So he did not pay too much attention to the gift. If they didn't give it to him, then so be it. Who would have thought that in just a day or so it would cause such a commotion? Which servant had the mouth to say so much? It was simply despicable. He did not suspect Yun Chuzhou because Yun Chuzhou and Mo shouting had already said that she bought things to go back and fake them. She did not mention the gift at all. Moreover, the rumors on the streets did not mention that Yun Chuzhou had said it herself, and he did not think that any girl would complain about not receiving a gift. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Mo Zioan's expression changed a few times as he said with a dark expression, Big brother, this matter is indeed inappropriate. I will think of a way to make up for it. Mo Xiaoquan nodded. Xiaoan, it's not that I'm criticizing you, but there are many pairs of eyes staring at us. If we are not careful, our status as a third-class family will be lost. Furthermore, although Guangshunzi is from the Western continent, he has helped us earn a lot of money in the past few months. We still have to put on a show. That's right, Xiaoan. Don't tell me that the five of you can't even bring out some gifts? Mo Xiaofu from the second branch said with his mouth curled. Mo Xiaoan was so embarrassed that he became angry. He said unhappily, second brother, I didn't do this properly. But what do you mean by saying that with guns and sticks? If you're dissatisfied with me, just say it. Mo Xiaofu naturally wasn't willing to be outdone. Xiaoan, what do you mean with a gun in your mouth? What I said is the truth. It's fine if you don't want your face, but we, the other four branches, still want it. This good news doesn't go out, but bad news spreads far and wide. I reckon that the other families have already found out about this matter. They might not be laughing at our Mo family. Panda N0 Vila Mo Xiaoan naturally became even angrier when he heard him say this. Who do you think doesn't want their face? I think you're deliberately finding trouble. Mo Xiaoquan saw that the two of them were arguing endlessly. He slapped the coffee table. Enough! Stop arguing. You're already so old, yet you're still arguing like a young boy. Don't you know shame? Xiaoan, I won't say anything else. You should quickly think of a way to make up for it. Also, after the wedding, Xiao Ting will definitely bring Feng Chao girl to visit each room. Don't let things like the fifth room happen again. Mo Xiaoquan was, after all, the head of the family. Mo Xiaoan and Mo Xiaofu looked embarrassed and could only nod in agreement. The five of them chatted for a while more before Mo Xiaoquan and the other three left. After Mo Xiaoan sent the four of them back, he was so angry that he smashed the teapot and teacup into pieces. After calming down a little, he went to see the fifth elder. After Mo Xiaoan saw the fifth elder, he told him what had happened. Father, although we didn't do the right thing with the greeting gifts, the other four branches didn't come over to denounce us. I think they were dissatisfied with our management and Guangshun's business, so they took the opportunity to attack us. The fifth elder was silent for a moment. He snorted coldly and said, "What you said makes sense. The big branch is still a little better, but the other 3 branches can't wait for us to make a mistake and snatch the business away." I was indeed wrong in thinking about this matter. You should have given the meeting gift to someone else, someone of a higher level. Then spread the news that the 5th branch's meeting gift was originally intended to be given to the Fangchao girl along with the other branches. Now, they're afraid that people will misunderstand, so they gave it in advance. Mo Xiaoan was stunned then. He said in admiration, "Father, your idea is good. This way, not only will we be cleared of all wrongdoing, but we'll also drag the other 4 branches down with us. When the time comes, if their meeting gift is too thin, it'll be the talk of the town." The corner of the 5th elder's mouth curled up into a sneer. "In our generation, we have always been fighting. However, the 4 of us together cannot defeat Big Brother. If it were not for Big Brother supporting Xiaoquan, the Mo family would not have fallen into his hands. Let's just endure it now. Hopefully I can endure through the other 4. When that time comes, our 5 families will be in charge of the Mo family." Mo Xiaoan naturally couldn't directly say that those 4 old fellows would definitely die in front of the 5th elder. So he said, "Father, our 5 branches will definitely have the last laugh." This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. After Mo Xiaoan left the 5th elder's courtyard, he called old Madame Wang over and scolded her. Old Madame Wang called her 2 daughters-in-law over and scolded her. Then, guests began to come to the Waning Moon Pavilion one after another. The first one to come was Steward Xia, who was beside old Madame Wang. After bowing, he said, "Miss Fno, this is a greeting gift from our madam to you. We originally planned to give it to you together with the other 4 rooms after the wedding banquet, but we thought it would be too late, so we asked this servant to send it over." Yun Chujo saw that Steward Xia was holding 2 upper-grade spirit tools in his hands, and she said with a smile, "I cannot refuse an elder's gift, so I will thicken my skin and accept it. Please thank Grandmother Wang for my kindness." Steward Xia saw that Yun Chujo did not intend to give him any money after she handed over the items, so he could only take his leave embarrassedly. He secretly hated Yun Chujo in his heart. What a stingy iron rooster. This time she would be rich. Not long after Manager Xia left, old Madame Wang's 2 daughters-in-law also sent people to deliver the greeting gifts. Although they were not as valuable as old Madame Wang's, they were still pretty good. Even Mo Fangjiao and the other 2 girls also sent their maids to deliver the greeting gifts. Regardless of whether they were valuable or not, they still meant the same thing. Yun Chujo sneered in her heart. No wonder the Mo family was only a 3rd-class family. The knowledge of these people was really limited. They did not even know how to put on a full show. Although old Madame Wang and the others had already paid for the gifts, they had all been sent by servants. This was obviously a form of patronizing charity. Even though old Madame Wang and the others were elders and didn't need to come personally, Mo Fangjiao and the others, as their peers, should have come personally and said a few polite words. This way they would have some face. TSK. Sooner or later, there would come a day when they wouldn't be able to reach the top. When Yun Chujo went to pay her respects to Mo Shouting, she told him about the gifts she had received. Mo Shouting was quite pleased. He felt that Mo Xiaoan and the others' attitude had finally improved. Panda N0VL Yun Chujo smiled. When she returned to the New Moon Pavilion, she told Mo Shouting what had happened using the voice transmission talisman. After listening to the content of the voice transmission talisman, Mo Shouting was dumbfounded. He knew it. How could this greedy little girl Fang Chao be so quiet? It turned out that she had a big trick up her sleeve. This trick was effective immediately. The 5th wife immediately gave him a gift as a welcome gift. It was impossible for her to think that Fang Chao had planned all of this. Mo Shouting once again felt lucky that he did not marry Yun Chujo to the Zhao family. Even if she was weak now, she would still soar to the sky sooner or later. Furthermore, this little girl was vengeful and would not have a good ending if she offended her. Mo Shouting suddenly remembered what Mo Chang had told him. He thought about it 100 times and comforted himself that Fang Chao would never find out about this. The news of the fifth son of the Mo family giving Yoon Chujio the gift was quickly leaked out by the servants of the Mo family. The public opinion finally calmed down. However, because of this incident, more people and forces turned their attention to Mo shouting and Yoon Chujio. They wanted to see what would happen next. It was finally the day of Mo Zyeokwan's eldest son, Mo Junkin's wedding. The event was naturally spectacular. Mo Junkin was most likely the future head of the Mo family, so his wedding was of a high standard. Mo shouting and Yoon Chujio followed the fifth son to the main room. The men and women naturally sat separately, so Yoon Chujio sat at a table with Mo Fangjiao and the others. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. It was Yoon Chujio's first time attending a wedding after she transmigrated. She watched the wedding process with interest. She felt that studying was not bad as she could use it when she got married to a gigolo. Besides Mo Fangjiao and the other three from the fifth room, there were also a few ladies from the fourth room who sat with Yoon Chujio. After they sized up Yoon Chujio, they started to whisper to Mo Fangjiao and the others. Although they were whispering, they were actually quite loud. Yoon Chujio naturally heard them clearly. Sister Fangjiao, I heard that someone went outside to slander your fifth room because they didn't receive the greeting? The one who spoke was Mo Fangju from the second room. She naturally didn't have good intentions when she said these words. On the one hand, she was slandering Yoon Chujio, on the other hand, she was trying to provoke Mo Fangjiao. If Mo Fangjiao and Yoon Chujio were to fight, it would be exactly what she wanted. Mo Fangxin, who was in the third room, also chimed in, that's right. As a person, you should know your limits. It's your duty to give her a gift but not to give her a favor. It would be shameless of you to ask for a gift yourself. The rest of the people also chimed in. The main content of the sarcasm was that Yoon Chujio went out and said that the fifth room did not give her a gift. She was really a country bumpkin from the western continent who was petty and greedy. Yoon Chujio turned a deaf ear to it. She felt that Mo Xiaoan definitely did not have any evidence to prove that she was the one who said the greeting gift. Otherwise he would not be so calm. As for the sarcasm of the Mo family's girls, this guy did not care at all. It was just a few ducks barking. If they were willing to bark, they could bark. As for whether Mo Fangjiao, the stupid duck, would fall for it, that was not a question that she needed to consider. Naturally, the fifth chamber's people had a headache. What she needed to do was to secretly open the recording stone. Mo Fangjiao had already heard her mother talk about some meeting gifts. She had long been dissatisfied with Yoon Chujio. Now that she had been provoked by Mo Fangju and the others, she naturally could not contain her anger. She glared at Yoon Chujio fiercely. Some people are inferior people from the western continent. Their eyelids are very shallow. The things from the fifth branch will be used as charity for beggars. Mo Fangju and the others thought that Yoon Chujio would definitely quarrel with Mo Fangjiao after hearing what Mo Fangjiao said. They did not expect Yoon Chujio to continue looking forward with great interest as if she did not hear anything. Mo Fangju and the others could not help but be disappointed. It seemed that Mo Fangjiao knew her own limits, so she did not dare to fall out with Mo Fangjiao. It was really disappointing. Mo Fangjiao said a few sarcastic words. Seeing that Yoon Chujio did not respond, she could not let go of the anger in her heart. She could only sit there and sulk. When the newlyweds were sent into the bridal chamber, the banquet officially began. Of course, Yoon Chujio did not stand on ceremony. She picked up whichever dish was delicious and ate happily. The ladies of the Mo family exchanged glances. This Mo Fangjiao was really an idiot. She only knew how to eat and did not have the reserved manner that a lady should have. Mo Fangju rolled her eyes and said with a smile, Sister Fangchao, I heard that you did not grow up in the western continent? Yes, I grew up in the Qingxian continent. Yoon Chujio said very naturally as if she did not hear Mo Fang's bad intentions. Mo Fangjiao covered her mouth with her hand. The Qingxian continent? Isn't that the lowest grade continent? I heard that the concentration of spiritual qi, there isn't even 1% of that of our eastern continent. Sister Fangchao, it's a good thing that you were found by Guangshuanji. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to ascend to the western continent in your lifetime, let alone the eastern continent. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Emo Fangsen's voice was very loud. Even the nearby tables of women had heard her words. These people could not help but turn their gazes towards Yoon Chujio, wanting to hear what she had to say. Some of these women were from the Emo clan or the collateral family. There were also some from other clans. This was the first time they had seen Yoon Chujio. However, they all roughly knew that this was a little girl from the Western continent. At this time, some people were gloating, some were sympathetic, and most people were just watching the show. They all felt that this Emo Fangchao had been scarred by someone, and they were either angry and noisy, or they were silently crying out of self-pity, but Yoon Chujio's next performance shocked them. Sister Fangjiao, you're right. I grew up on a low-level continent, and the concentration of spiritual qi there is even less than 1% of the Eastern continent, but so what? I am now at the 6th level of the spiritual venerable realm. Although I am much lower than the other sisters, I feel that if I grew up in the same environment, some people might not be able to practice as fast as me, right? Actually, I feel that there is no point in discussing a person's background. When you stand at the peak, no matter how humble your background is, there will naturally be people who will help you beautify it. However, when you are at the bottom, no matter how noble your background was in the past, it will only leave a topic for others to talk about after dinner. Moreover, you don't eat, you don't speak, you don't sleep, and you don't speak. A country bumpkin from a low-grade continent, don't know the rules. My sisters and sisters should also know the rules, right? It's better to eat quickly. Otherwise, if this dish gets cold, it won't taste good. Wasting it is the most shameful act. After Yoon Chujio finished speaking, she picked up her chopsticks and continued eating, as if the long speech just now was not what she said. The faces of Emo Fangjiao and the others present turned green and white, especially Emo Fangjiao, who wished she could find a hole to hide in. She really wanted to refute Yoon Chujio, but she found that there was no room for rebuttal. Say what? Could it be that what Yoon Chujio said was wrong? She had already cultivated to the 6th level of the spiritual venerable realm on a continent with such low spiritual power. How could she say that her cultivation was slow? If it were them, they might not even be able to reach the level of spiritual emperor. Moreover, although the people who cultivated did not have the rules and regulations of the secular world, the higher the level of the family, the stricter the rules were. They knew that they had to eat without speaking, sleep without speaking. They had mocked and ridiculed her for a long time, and it was really a little embarrassing. Some of the other clan's madams were shocked when they heard Yoon Chujio's words. This little girl from the Western continent was really sharp-tongued. Her counterattack was really beautiful. However, it was a pity that this little girl was from the Western continent. Although she was eloquent and was good at doing business, her starting point was too low. She still could not catch up to these girls from the Eastern continent. The few girls from the Emo family looked embarrassed. Although they hated Yoon Chujio to death, they could not say anything. After all, there were so many people watching them. Yoon Chujio could not be bothered with them. It would be better if they did not eat. Just so happened that she ate more. The few girls from the Emo family looked at Yoon Chujio as she ate. They cursed in their hearts. She was really a good-for-nothing. She only knew how to eat. It would be better if she choked to death. Yoon Chujio ate all their grievances and felt that it was a different feeling. After the wedding banquet ended, Yoon Chujio followed old Madame Wang and the others back to the 5th room. Yoon Chujio had just entered the waning moon pavilion when Emo Fangjiao angrily followed her in. Emo Fangjiao, you ate our 5th room and lived in our 5th room. Now you actually embarrass me in front of everyone. Do you still have any shame? This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Yoon Chujio's eyes flashed as she watched Emo Fangjiao leave. Emo Fangjiao's impulsive temper wasn't particularly annoying, but Emo Fangjiu from the 2nd branch was a pure white lotus. It was better to be careful. The next day, after Emo Shouting and Emo Xiaoan had a discussion, Emo Xiaoan accompanied Yoon Chujio to the other 4 branches. Originally, Emo Xiaoan did not need to accompany her personally, but he had his own plans. Firstly, he wanted to see how the other 4 rooms treated Emo shouting and what gifts they would give him. Secondly, he wanted to prevent the other rooms from talking about Emo shouting. Thirdly, he wanted to see the first elder's health. The first room they went to was naturally the main room, which was the residence of the current master, Emo Xiaoquan. Emo Xiaoquan had reprimanded Emo Xiaoan previously, so he naturally had to lead by example. So as soon as Emo shouting and Yun Chuzhou entered the main house, they felt the warmth of spring. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Fengchao girl is really pretty. I heard that she knows how to do business. What a lovely girl. Quickly come to grandmother Tian and let her have a good look. Emo Xiaoquan's wife, old Madame Tian, said amiably. Yun Chuzhou was not shy. She walked up to old Madame Tian and said, Grandmother Tian, I'm embarrassed by your praise. How can I be as good as you say? I am far from being as good as my sisters. My sisters are like the bright moon in the sky, and I am like a pebble on the ground. This little mouth really knows how to speak. This 8 treasures ice soak bracelet is a gift from Grandmother Tian. Come, Grandmother Tian will help you put it on. As old Madame Tian spoke, she put a crystal-clear bracelet on Yun Chuzhou's left wrist. Yun Chuzhou thought to herself, old Madame Tian was much more troublesome than old Madame Wang. No wonder she was the wife of the patriarch. After Yun Chuzhou thanked her, she said a few more words of flattery. All she said was that old Madame Tian was young. In an instant, the room was filled with laughter and harmony. Seeing the harmonious atmosphere, Emo Xiaoan felt a little uneasy. With this comparison, it seemed like the 5th chamber was not treating Emo shouting and his grandson very warmly. Emo Xiaoan rolled his eyes and said, Big brother, Xiaoting is mainly here to pay his respects to first uncle. Why don't you lead us to first uncle's courtyard? Emo Xiaoquan couldn't help but sneer at Emo Xiaoan's words. He knew why Emo Xiaoan was so determined to pay his respects to first elder. Wasn't it because he wanted to check on first elder's condition? Unfortunately, his wishful thinking was in vain. His father was a divine schemer. He had long guessed that he was going to do this, so he had made ample preparations. He could use this opportunity to intimidate the 5 houses. Of course. Brother Xiaoting, come with me, Emo Xiaoquan said politely. Emo Xiaoan's eyes flashed, and he also raised his leg to follow. Since he was going to greet the great elder, it would not be good for Emo Xiaoquan to chase him away. Yun Chuzhou's heart skipped a beat. The first elder was the biggest lackey in the Emo family. This was a good opportunity. So the shameless man said, Grandfather Quan, can I go with you? I've always heard that the first elder is not only talented in spiritual energy, he is also very wise. I would like to listen to his teachings. Emo Xiaoquan's face froze. It was rare to see a girl who could flatter him so naturally. He coughed and said, Of course you can. You can go with us. After Emo Xiaoquan and the others left, the people who stayed behind commented on Emo shouting and Yun Chuzhou. Only one girl in a white dress had a cold look in her eyes. This Emo Fengchao looked heartless, but she was actually quite scheming. Did she really think that she would benefit from meeting her great-grandfather? She was really naive. Yun Chuzhou followed Emo Xiaoquan and the others and finally arrived outside a courtyard. Yun Chuzhou sniffed. The smell of medicinal pills? Could it be that this great elder knew how to refine pills? Emo Xiaoan's eyes flashed and asked with concern, Big brother, why is there such a strong smell of medicinal pills here? Is there something wrong with uncle's body? Emo Xiaoquan glanced at him indifferently, causing Emo Xiaoan's expression to become embarrassed. Only then did he say, Father's body is very tough. However, he has been refining a grade 14 blood creation pill recently. Judging from this fragrance, Father has probably succeeded in refining it. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Emo Xiaoan could not help but feel disappointed when he heard Emo Xiaoquan's words. He had thought that the first elder's illness was incurable. He had not expected that he would still have the strength to refine pills. He reckoned that he would not die for a while. What an old man. At this moment a loud shout came from within. Is that shouting? Come in. Emo Xiaoquan smiled. It seems that father has already noticed us. Let's go in quickly. Emo Xiaoan was even more disappointed when he heard the great elder's energetic voice. He followed Emo Xiaoquan into the courtyard. Yun Chujiu secretly looked at the great elder's courtyard. The courtyard was very spacious. Other than a small road paved with bluestone, the rest of the place was planted with all kinds of herbs. It seemed that the great elder really knew how to refine pills. A maid opened the door curtain and Emo Xiaoquan and the others entered the study room on the east side. There was no one else in the spacious study room. Everyone couldn't help but wonder, where was the first elder? At this moment, an old man with white hair and a beard walked in from outside the door. His body carried a strong medicinal fragrance. He laughed heartily. I just successfully refined a batch of blood creation pills and now I'm seeing shouting again. Today is truly a double celebration. Seeing this, Emo Shouting quickly stepped forward and bowed. Yun Chujiu also followed behind Emo Shouting and bowed. The first elder waved his hand. We're all family. There's no need for so much red tape. All of you get up. Panda N0VL seeing that the first elder was full of energy. Emo Xiaoan felt a chill down his spine. It looked like this old man was going to live for at least another few decades. The fifth wife would not be able to take over for a while. The first elder asked a few questions, but they were all polite questions. Emo Shouting replied respectfully. The first elder turned his gaze to Yun Chujiu and said kindly, Feng Chao may be young, but she is quite smart. I heard that you came up with the idea for the 7 stars lucky card? Thank you, great-grandfather, for your praise. Although I am not good at cultivation, I still have a lot of ideas. Great elder, you still know how to refine pills? I admire alchemists the most in my life. Although I also know how to refine some low-level pills, compared to you the difference is like heaven and earth. Sigh, it's a pity that I can't be by your side often. Otherwise, I would definitely learn from you. Yun Chujiu sighed and said, Oh, the little girl also knows how to refine pills? Which level of pills do you know how to refine? The great elder asked with interest. He was just asking casually. He felt that Yun Chujiu could only refine level 5 or 6 pills. After all, she was a little girl from an inferior continent. I can refine level 10 pills, but the quality is not particularly good. I can only guarantee an 80% success rate. Half of them will be high grade. Yun Chujiu said with a smile. This fellow felt that this level was just right. It wasn't too eye-catching, but it also showed a certain talent in alchemy. It should be enough for fishing. As expected, everyone was shocked, especially Emo Shouting. He had no idea that his granddaughter, apart from her business talent, could also refine pills. And she was able to refine level 10 pills at such a young age? Even on the Eastern continent, such talent was considered pretty good. However, the Great Elder and the others felt that Yun Chujiu was bragging. In particular, the Great Elder originally had a good impression of Yun Chujiu because the words that Yun Chujiu said at the wedding banquet had already reached his ears. He felt that this little girl was eloquent and had an optimistic and tenacious character. He did not expect that she would actually brag now. She was really useless. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. The first elder's face darkened. Feng Chao, although being competitive is a good thing, honesty is the most important thing. Lying is not something a good kid should do. Emo Xiaoquan chimed in, That's right, Feng Chao. How can you refine a level 10 pill at such a young age? Not to mention you, even some alchemists on the Eastern continent couldn't do it, let alone an 80% success rate and half a high-quality pill. Hearing this, Emo Shouting also felt that Yun Chujiu was messing around. His face darkened. Feng Chao, stop messing around. Hurry up and apologize. Yun Chujiu had an innocent look. I really know how to refine level 10 pills. If you don't believe me, I will refine a batch of level 10 pills for you. Emo Shouting was about to reprimand Yun Chujiu when the first elder said, Alright, since Feng Chao said that she really knows how to refine level 10 pills, then let's refine a level 10 Yuan Ling pill. Emo Shouting glared at Yun Chujiu. It was hard to stop now. If the refinement of the grass did not succeed, the first elder would definitely scold her. This little girl was really being ridiculous. The first elder brought a few people to the alchemy room on the west side. There was a specially purchased earthfire inside that could be used to refine pills as soon as the switch was turned on. Yun Chujo felt that the design of this earthfire was much more advanced than that of the Tianyuan continent. She randomly took out a clean alchemy furnace from her storage ring and placed it on top of the earthfire. This alchemy furnace was prepared by Yun Chujo for the heaven and earth heaven and earth heaven and earth heaven and earth heaven furnace, so she did not recognize it as her master. If she did not recognize it as her master, she would not be able to refine pills. So, she bit her index finger and began to refine the alchemy furnace. Emo shouting felt a headache coming on. How could an alchemist not have a dedicated alchemy furnace? This person was amazing. She actually refined it on the spot. One look and it was obvious that she was unreliable. If the first elder were to blame her later, it could only be said that she was too young and immature. This herb was really troublesome. The first elder and the other two had the same thoughts as Emo shouting. Which alchemist didn't have their own furnace? This little girl was indeed bragging. Yun Chujo thought back to the method of refining the origin spirit pill. She wanted to hide her weakness, so she did not adjust the amount of herbs as she usually did. Instead, she began to refine the pill step by step. The first elder was an expert. Seeing that Yun Chujo's portion and steps were correct, he felt a little relieved. Perhaps this little girl really knew how to refine pills. While Yun Chujo was refining, although she did not add any medicinal herbs, her spiritual sense had been observing the changes of the medicinal herbs in the pill refining furnace. Suddenly, Yun Chujo frowned slightly. The great elder and the others saw it and guessed in their hearts that this little girl had probably forgotten some of the steps. Although she looked decent, she still lacked maturity. How could they know that Yun Chujo was not worried about the failure of the pill at this moment? Instead, she realized that the purity of the medicinal herbs provided by the great elder was too good, so the pill's success rate might reach 90%, and they were all high grade. This was not in line with this fellow's intention to hide his true strength. What should she do? Yun Chujo blinked her eyes and suddenly opened the pill refining furnace's lid. Then, she picked up a section of fallen petals vine and threw it into the pill refining furnace. The great elder was so angry that his white beard was trembling. Nonsense! Nonsense! The biggest taboo in alchemy is to open the lid of the alchemy furnace halfway. Your alchemy furnace will be ruined for sure. What you did before was clearly right, but you just had to make things worse. How infuriating! This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Although Emo Xiaoquan and Emo Xiaoan didn't know how to refine pills, they knew that they couldn't open the lid during the process. They shook their heads. This Feng Chao didn't even know about the taboo of pill refinement, yet she was still bragging about how she knew how to refine pills. How ridiculous. Emo Xiaoding's forehead was covered in sweat. The first elder was the actual person in charge of the Emo family. If Feng Chao caused such a ruckus, it would definitely upset him. They might even expel them back to the Western continent. Feng Chao was such a bad person. Yun Chujo did not seem to notice the reaction of the crowd. She smiled. First elder, my alchemy is different from others. Every time I make a pill, I add some herbs into it. I don't know if it's because of my mental state, but after doing this, I feel more confident that I can successfully refine a pill every time. Everyone's faces froze. Was this a joke? Mental state? This was pure nonsense. Pandian Zero Vel. Calm. If it wasn't for the fact that there were other people present, Emo shouting would have scolded Yun Chujo. He could ignore other things, but if he were to cause trouble in front of First Elder, wouldn't he be looking for trouble? He really shouldn't have let her follow him. However, Emo shouting noticed that the fragrance of a pill began to spread from the furnace. Could it be that he had successfully refined a pill? Emo shouting shook his head again. It was probably because the herbs had already been refined into a medicinal liquid that the fragrance was present. Even if the pill was successfully refined, it would be lucky if there were 2 or 3 completed pills. Emo shouting felt a little relieved. No matter what, it wasn't too embarrassing that the herb girl did not blow up the furnace. The 3 elders shared the same thoughts as Emo shouting. Although there was a difference between what she said and what she said, it was still okay. At least she didn't mess up or blow up the furnace. A moment later, Yoon Chujo said with a smile, "It's a success. I told you, as long as I add some herbs into it, I will definitely succeed." Emo shouting couldn't hold it in any longer. "Enough. You should change your reckless attitude. Uncle Fong Chao is still young and doesn't know what she's talking about. Don't mind her." The first elder nodded. "It's okay for young people to be arrogant. But Fong Chao, your alchemy skills are quite good. It's just that you need to change your habit of adding herbs into it. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to succeed." Yoon Chujo blinked her eyes. "Great old master, what you said makes sense. I just lack the guidance of a master like you. Otherwise, I would have thought that this strange habit would be beneficial to my alchemy." The great elder saw that Yoon Chujo was humbly accepting the criticism and his impression of her changed slightly. Then he said, "It's great that you know your mistakes and can improve. When you go back, you can ask Xiaoting to help you hire an alchemy master. Who knows, you might have some achievements in the future." Although the great elder's words were vague, everyone present could hear the hidden meaning. It was a clear rejection of Yoon Chujio's intention to learn alchemy from him. However, this was also within everyone's expectations. Not to mention that Yoon Chujo did not have an 80% success rate in refining pills. Even if she had achieved it, the possibility of the great elder personally guiding her was very slim. First of all, the great elder's identity was still there. How could he carefully teach a junior who was about to produce 5 servings of pills? What did these juniors of the family think? Second, the great elder was already very old. How could he have the time and energy to teach people how to refine pills? At this moment, Yoon Chujo said clearly, "Great elder, what you said makes sense. I have learned. However, shouldn't we see if I succeeded in refining the pills?" This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Hearing this, Emo shouting glared at Yoon Chujo. The reason why no one had checked the furnace was to save her some face. After all, she was just a little girl and they were afraid that she would be embarrassed. Who would have thought that she would take the initiative to bring it up? If that's the case, then open the lid of the furnace. The first elder shook his head. The little girl was still too young and impetuous. She wouldn't give up until she hit a wall. Yoon Chujo opened the lid of the alchemy furnace with a smile. Then her small face twitched and she sighed. "Sigh, the great master is right. I still need some time." The great elder and the others were standing some distance away from the operating table, so they didn't see the situation inside the alchemy furnace. Hearing Yoon Chujio's words, they understood in their hearts that the pill success rate was probably less than 30%. "Fong Chao, you are still young. It's already good enough that you were able to refine a primordial spirit pill. Don't be discouraged. Keep up the good work in the future," Emo Xiaoquan said amiably. "That's right. After all, a primordial spirit pill is a level 10 pill. Even if you were able to refine one successfully, it would still be amazing." Emo Xiaoan comforted Yoon Chujo even though he was secretly gloating. Emo shouting glared at Yoon Chujo. "Do you know how high the heavens are now? You even bragged about an 80% success rate? But what happened? In the past, grandfather warned you not to be arrogant. But you are showing off in front of your uncle. When you return home, you should reflect on yourself." The reason why Emo shouting said this was to shut the first elder's mouth, so that he wouldn't take the opportunity to punish Yoon Chujo. The first elder naturally understood what Emo shouting meant and smiled indifferently. He was already so old, so he didn't want to argue with a little girl. However, he originally wanted to test out this Emo Fong Chao. But now it seemed there was no need. "Grandfather, everything you said is correct, but I refined 8 original spirit pills. I'm just a little regretful. Only 4 of them are high-grade pills. I originally thought that there would be 6 high-grade pills this time," Yoon Chujo said with a regretful expression. Everyone rushed to the front of the alchemy furnace in one go. They saw that other than the residue of some medicinal herbs at the bottom of the alchemy furnace, there were 8 round pills. 4 of them were clearly high-grade pills with a round luster. The other 4 were slightly lacking in luster and were middle grade. Everyone was stunned. It was actually successfully refined. How is this possible? Didn't they say that it was a big taboo to open the lid of the alchemy furnace halfway? Moreover, the little girl had added a section of fallen petals vine into it. How was it possible for it to reach an 80% pill refinement rate? And it was even of such high quality? After everyone recovered from their shock, they felt a little embarrassed. After all, each and every one of them had been acting like garlic for half a day just now. But now they were slapped in the face. The first elder coughed twice. Feng Chao girl, refine another batch of level 10 bone grafting pills. Yun Chujo nodded. After washing the pill refining furnace, she began to refine the bone grafting pills step by step. This fellow had gained experience this time, so he didn't need to adjust it halfway. Directly at the beginning of the refinement, she deliberately increased the temperature a little. This way the pill success rate and the quality of the pill would be reduced. Everyone smelled a burnt smell. A thought flashed through their minds at the same time. It seemed that this little girl had hit the nail on the head. A blind cat met a dead rat. This time her true colors were revealed. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Emo shouting comforted himself. No matter what, he had done it just now. So what if he did it this time? It wasn't too embarrassing. Emo Xiaoquan and Emo Xiaoan relaxed a little. Both Emo Xiaoquan and Emo Xiaoan did not want Yun Chujo to really enter the first elder's eyes. The reason was obvious. If the first elder really personally taught Yun Chujo how to refine pills, what would the others think? That would make the younger generation of the family appear to be too useless and incompetent. The first elder did not have many thoughts. He only wanted to verify whether Yun Chujo had the talent to refine pills. As for whether or not he wanted to teach her how to refine pills, that was not something he had to consider now. After 15 minutes, the medicinal fragrance began to spread out from the pill furnace, covering up the burning smell at the beginning. Everyone was puzzled. It was clearly the burning smell from before. How could the medicinal fragrance still come out? After a while, Yun Chujo finished the pill refinement. She sighed and said, I did not control the fire well before. I reckon that the pill success rate and quality won't be too good. Feng Chao girl, open the lid of the pill refining furnace first. The great elder had learned his lesson this time. It was better not to make a conclusion for now. If he was slapped in the face again, there would be no place to put his old face. Yun Chujo nodded and obediently opened the lid of the pill refining furnace. Then she heard a few gasps. How is this possible? Didn't you just refine it into paste? Why is there still an 80% success rate? Moreover, there are 3 high-grade pills. Emo Xiaoan asked in disbelief. Not to mention him, even the great elder was puzzled. According to common sense, if the fire was not properly controlled at the beginning, then it would be pretty good if this cauldron of pills could achieve a 60% success rate, not to mention such a high-grade pill. How did this little girl do it? The great elder directly asked the question. Yun Chujo blinked her eyes. Great elder, what you said is too profound. I don't really understand. I refined it based on intuition. The great elder's heart shook. Intuition? Could it be that this little girl was born to be an alchemist? Speaking of which, if it wasn't for her great talent in alchemy, a little girl from a low-level continent like her would never be able to reach the level of a 10th-rank alchemist no matter what. Although many thoughts surged in the great elder's heart for a moment, there was no change on his face. He praised. It seems that Feng Chao isn't bluffing. She is indeed a level 10 alchemist. As expected of our Mo clan's blood and bone. Tianzi is indeed extraordinary. The great elder's heart moved when he said this. Tianzi? This little girl heard that she had a heavenly thunder spirit root. That was right. It was probably because she had a heavenly thunder spirit root that she had a certain talent in alchemy. Pandian Zero Vel. Calm, however, when he remembered that Yun Chujo had a heavenly thunder spirit root, the Grand Elder's thoughts became a little more complicated. The heavenly thunder spirit root was something that the Tian Dao could not tolerate. Sooner or later, it would be wiped out by the Tian Dao. What a pity. Yun Chujo humbly said a few words. She tactfully did not mention the words of letting the Grand Elder teach her alchemy. There were some things that could not be rushed. Take your time. There was no rush. The Great Elder encouraged Yunchujo a few more words, then for the first time, he took out an alchemy furnace and said to Yunchujo, "Feng Chao girl, I saw that the alchemy furnace you used just now was too low grade. This Taotai pattern alchemy furnace was used by me in the past. You can take it and use it." "Thank you, great master. This is really great. In the future, when I see an alchemy furnace, it will be as if I heard your teachings with my own ears. I will definitely continue to work hard," Yunchujo said with a face full of gratitude. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. The corners of Mo Xiaoting's eyes twitched. "Fuck, isn't your flattery a little too obvious?" But to his surprise, the First Elder seemed to be enjoying it. He laughed. "You little girl, you sure have a sweet mouth. Go back and train hard." Yunchujo nodded obediently and did not continue to flatter him. After all, flattery was a skill and flattery was bad for the legs, so it was more or less enough. Everyone returned to the study room and exchanged a few pleasantries. The First Elder picked up his teacup and everyone tactfully stood up to leave. Mo Xiaoquan originally wanted to keep Mo Xiaoting for lunch, but seeing that Mo Xiaoting insisted on leaving, he had no choice but to escort the three of them out of the mansion. Mo Xiaoquan turned around and returned to the First Elder's courtyard. At this time, the First Elder was hunched and looked completely different from before. "Xiaoquan, have they all left?" Mo Xiaoquan nodded, then asked worriedly, "Father, are you all right? You shouldn't have taken that tiger and wolf medicine. It'll just find an excuse to prevent them from coming to see you." "Sigh, my body can't hold on for much longer anyway. The Fifth Elder is eyeing me like a tiger, and those few aren't well behaved either. If I don't show up, they'll definitely come over to probe me endlessly. Others may think that the great patriarch of the Mo family is very impressive, but in reality, Ling Wan knows his own limits. When a disaster strikes, it is the beginning of the destruction of a family. We absolutely cannot allow such a situation to happen. When the day comes when I am about to fail, I will bring those 4 troublemakers along with me. I will not leave any trouble for you." Although Mo Xiaoquan's heart was relieved, he felt a slight chill on his back. His expression was naturally a little unnatural. Pandan 0 Vel. C0M. The Great Elder was well versed in the ways of the world, and naturally understood what he was thinking. He snorted coldly. "Do you think that I am too ruthless and merciless? You are good in every way, but you are too indecisive. Yes, I admit that it is indeed a little too ruthless to kill them all. However, as long as I am dead, if the 4 of them are still alive, they will definitely force you to give up the position of family head. When that time comes, the Mo family will be in a bloodbath. When that time comes, it won't be a matter of 4 people dying. It's very likely that the Mo family will be replaced by someone and uprooted." Mo Xiaoquan's face revealed a look of shame. "Father, your son has realized his mistake. In the end, it's still because your son's ability isn't enough. There's no way to convince the other 4 chambers and make you worry." The Great Elder sighed. "I've seen your hard work. It's just that with your character, your progress is limited. Yonghui and Jun Kuan are also more than capable. If they don't develop enough, they might not be as good as you in the future. Therefore, I have to settle those 4 troublemakers. Otherwise, you won't be able to deal with them in the future." Mo Xiaoquan's face was filled with shame when he heard the Great Elder's words. He knew that what the Great Elder said was the truth. Once the Great Elder died, the other 4 branches would have the support of the elders in the family to force them out of the palace. At that time, the Mo family would definitely fall into chaos. The father and son were silent for a moment. Mo Xiaoquan had nothing to say and wanted to find something to talk about. He wanted to adjust the atmosphere and asked, "Father, what do you think of Xiaoting and Feng Chao girl?" Xiaoting people are very shrewd, but their horizons are limited. As for that Feng Chao girl, she has somewhat exceeded my expectations. According to the information you gathered, the matter of the meeting gift was probably designed by this little girl alone. In addition to the words she said at the wedding banquet, This little girl is very intelligent and is quite scheming, the first elder said thoughtfully. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Father, could she be the one who planned the meeting gift? It can't be, right? Where did a little girl like her get the guts? If Xiaowen knew about it, he would definitely not let her off easily. Emo Xiaoquan said in disapproval. The first elder could not help but sigh. Look, even when I said that it was her who did it, you didn't believe it. Do you think Xiaowen would think that it was her who did it? This little girl is bold and careful. If it was a boy, we could really nurture him. Unfortunately, it's a girl, and she has a heavenly thunder spirit root. We can only give up. Father, even if the meeting gift was designed by her, it's just a small trick. How is it worthy of your praise? If the meeting gift is a small trick, then what she said at Junkin's wedding banquet shows that this little girl has a world within her. Moreover, she also has the talent of alchemy and business. She is really a good seedling. Unfortunately, she is not a boy and she has the heavenly thunder spirit root that the heavenly Tao does not allow. The great elder shook his head regretfully. However, Emo Xiaoquan felt that the great elder was exaggerating a little. She is just a slightly smarter little girl. She is not as amazing as the great elder said. Fortunately, she is a little girl. Otherwise, she might even threaten Jun Kun's position. Yun Chuzhou, who was being discussed by the two, had just returned to the fifth house of the Mo family. She was going to visit the second house of the Mo family after lunch. Mo Shouting was naturally happy. He never thought that Feng Chao would actually know how to refine pills. To be able to refine level 10 pills at such a young age was definitely one of the best in the Western continent. After returning home, he was going to train her well. Perhaps the Mo family would produce a high-level alchemist in the future. Although Mo Xiaoan did not show it on his face, he was feeling depressed. He originally thought that the first elder was about to die, but he did not expect him to be so energetic and disappointed. Mo Xiaoan took the time to meet with the fifth elder and explained the situation to him. The fifth elder was also disappointed, but there was nothing he could do. He couldn't possibly send someone to kill the first elder, right? Besides, he couldn't kill the first elder even if he wanted to. Not only did the first elder have a high level of spiritual energy, but the building was also heavily guarded. There was no chance for him to make a move. In the afternoon, Mo Xiaoan wasn't in the mood to accompany Mo Shouting to the second branch. So he asked his eldest son, Mo Yongfei, to accompany him. Yun Chuzhou couldn't help but wonder why the Mo family had rules when it came to names. For example, Mo Xiaoquan, Mo Shouting, Mo Fengjiao, and Mo Fengqin. Why didn't Mo Cheng use the word Yong in their names? This guy couldn't take it anymore. Before Mo Yongfei arrived, he had already asked his question. Mo Xiaoting's expression was a little unnatural as he explained the situation briefly. It turned out, when Mo Xiaoting's father was still alive, there was a period when he didn't get along well with the Mo family. But the Mo family was too powerful, so he didn't dare to do anything. So when he gave his 3 grandsons names, he erased the word Yong. In reality, this was a form of self-deception. The family tree had the word Yong on it. On the side of the family, there was Mo Yongpeng, Mo Yongcheng, and Mo Yongchang. The corner of Yun Chujia's eyes twitched. This great-grandfather was indeed interesting. Unfortunately, he died early and wasn't fated to meet. After a while, Mo Yongfei arrived. His attitude was quite good. It was likely that Mo Xiaoan had instructed him. Soon, the 3 of them arrived at the Mo family's second son. Although the Mo family's second son had a good attitude, he wasn't as warm as the eldest son. Even when Mo Shouting asked to meet the second elder, Mo Xiaofu found an excuse to reject him. They had already given him their gifts, which were almost the same as the fifth son's. Yun Chuzhou had also made a small fortune, so she was in a good mood. Some people couldn't bear to see Yun Chujio in a good mood. While everyone was drinking tea and chatting, Mo Fangzhu smiled and said, Sister Fangchao, what you said at the wedding banquet really touched me deeply. I think you are also a talented person. Qin Qi, calligraphy and painting. I wonder if sister is good at them or what kind. Why don't you show us what you're good at? It'll be an eye-opener for my sister. Mo Fangzhu said this because she knew a lot about these things. She had been humiliated by Yun Chujio at the wedding banquet and wanted to get back at her. Moreover, she felt that Yun Chujio's personality was too impetuous and didn't seem to be talented. What she said before was just a blind cat hitting a dead mouse. Hearing Mo Fangzhu's question, everyone's attention turned to Yun Chujio. Mo shouting furrowed his brows. The little girl's handwriting was like a dog's crawl. He had never heard her play the zither before. Moreover, with her personality, playing chess was even worse. Unless she was drawing, it wasn't going to be easy. Mo Fangzhu looked at Mo Xiaoding's expression and felt even more confident. It looked like Mo Fangzhu was an ignorant idiot. Yun Chujio smiled, Sister Fangzhu. I know everything about zither, chess, calligraphy and painting, but this doesn't reflect my talent. How about this? If I write a word, you will definitely mispronounce it. Sister Fangzhu, you must be joking. Although I'm not talented, I still know all the words. Mo Fangzhu was so angry that she was about to laugh. She had started reading at the age of 3. How could there be words that she did not know? Since that's the case, shall we make a bet? If you mispronounce the words that I wrote, Sister Fangzhu will lose 100,000 high-grade spirit stones to me. If you don't mispronounce the words, then I will lose 100,000 high-grade spirit stones to you. Sister Fangzhu, do you dare to make a bet with me? Yun Chujio said with a slightly provocative tone. Since she had nothing to do, torturing the white lotus flower to pass the time was not a bad idea. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Mo Fangzhu certainly would not admit defeat. Alright, it's a deal. You can write it. However, we can agree that it can't be ancient characters or foreign characters. Of course. Immediately, a servant carried a small square table and prepared a brush, ink, paper and inkstone. Yun Chujio walked up to her, picked up a pen and scribbled a word. When Mo Fangzhu saw that word, she almost fainted from anger. You're cheating. What you wrote was wrong, of course, no matter how I read it, it was wrong. Mo Fangzhu almost shouted out. Only now did she understand that Yun Chujio was playing a trick on her. Yun Chujio said with an aggrieved expression, Sister Fangzhu, I was just making a harmless joke. Why are you so anxious? In that case, I don't want your 100,000 high-grade spirit stones anymore. Just pretend that I didn't say anything. Mo Fangzhu's face flushed red. Yun Chujio's words made her seem like she was too narrow-minded to make a joke, and she was even more reluctant to part with 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. She gritted her teeth in anger and said, Humph, although you won by means, am willing to admit defeat. Isn't it just 100,000 high-grade spirit stones? What's so great about it? Yun Chujio naturally would not push the spirit stones that were delivered to her door out. She smiled and said, Since Sister Fangzhu insists on giving it to me, then I'll shamelessly accept it. Thank you, Sister Fangzhu. Mo Fangzhu glared at her. She wasn't in the mood to let Yun Chujio perform any zither, chess, calligraphy or painting. She wanted to strangle her on the spot. With this incident, the atmosphere in the room became even more awkward. Mo shouting felt like he was sitting on pins and needles as he quickly stood up and left. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. After returning to room 5, Mo shouting called Yun Chujio into the study room in his courtyard and closed the door. He lowered his voice and said, Fangchao, why did you offend Fangzhu of the second wife? Although only room 5 has business relations with us, it's not good to upset the second wife. Grandfather, Mo Fangzhu doesn't like me to begin with. She was the one who instigated Mo Fangjiao to target me at the wedding banquet. If I wasn't smart, Mo Fangjiao might have beaten me up. Besides, grandfather, do you think that even if we fawn over the other branches, They will treat us like human beings? Yun Chujo sneered. Although Emo Shouting did not think that Yun Chujia's words were nice, he had to admit that Yun Chujia's words made sense. Even after the incident with the gifts had passed, the attitude of the family had improved. However, the disdain and contempt in his eyes were not hidden at all. His heart was filled with anxiety. Feng Chao, even if what you said makes sense, what can we do? Our small arms can't beat our thighs. Let's just hold on for a while longer and go back, Emo Shouting sighed. No, grandfather, we now have a chance. A great opportunity to let the Emo family return to the eastern continent. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed with a bright light. Emo Shouting was pleasantly surprised. Feng Chao, aren't you trying to coax grandfather? Is there really a way for the Emo family to return to the eastern continent? Yun Chujo nodded and peeked through the door. Chun Xiao was following her instructions and was talking to the two maids in the courtyard. She then lowered her voice and said, Grandfather, if everything goes according to plan, it will be extremely difficult for the Emo family to return to the eastern continent. Firstly, the Mo family doesn't like us, and secondly, they want us to work for them in the western continent. So they won't allow us to join their family. So we can only take a risk and take a gamble. Emo Shouting nodded his head. Yun Chujia's words made sense. He could tell that the Emo family had no intention of letting them join their family. Feng Chao, what's the solution? Don't keep us guessing. Yun Chujo did not answer, but instead asked, Grandfather, why do you think Emo Xiaoan followed us to the main house? Why didn't he accompany us to the second house in the afternoon? Emo Shouting was stunned. Didn't he say that he had something to deal with in the afternoon? Pandiof, Yun Chujo smiled. Grandfather, do you believe him? This is just an excuse. Haven't you noticed that Emo Xiaoan has been preoccupied ever since he returned from the main house? Emo Shouting did not pay much attention at first, but after hearing what Yun Chujo said, he thought about it and realized that it was true. When he left, Emo Xiaoan was still talking and laughing, but when he returned he was obviously much quieter. After hearing what you said, it's true. But what does this have to do with us? Did we upset him in some way? Emo Shouting still did not understand what Yun Chujo was trying to say. Grandfather, if you look closely, you will realize that Emo Xiaoan's mood was bad the moment he saw the first elder. What do you think this is about? Emo Shouting was stunned for a moment before his mouth fell open. He was a wily old fox, so he was well aware of the power struggle between families. He then recalled that Emo Xiaoan had once asked Emo Xiaoquan if there was something wrong with the first elder's body and immediately understood. Are you saying that Emo Xiaoan was disappointed when he found out that there was nothing wrong with the first elder's body? This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Grandfather, you are right. Emo Xiaoan must have been disappointed because the first elder's health is fine. The only reason he accompanied us to the main room was to find out about the first elder's health. The reason why Yun Chujo did not say it out loud and let Emo Shouting make his own guess was to make him more convinced. Emo Shouting sighed. I didn't expect my family to be involved in this mess. But what does this have to do with us returning to the East Continent? Grandfather, it's because of this mess that we have the chance to fish in troubled waters, Yun Chujo said with a smile. The reason she had made this guess was because she had noticed the change in Emo Xiaoan's expression, but more importantly, when she saw the great elder, Guai Chao was restless and expressed that he wanted to eat something good. After Yun Chujo suppressed the Guai Chao, she came back and asked what the Guai Chao smelled. After a few guesses, she finally confirmed that the great elder had taken a pill that could stimulate the Bodhi's potential in a short period of time. This kind of pill could be said to do more harm than good. For example, if one could originally live for 10 years after taking this pill, they would probably have 7 to 8 years to live. Since the great elder had put in so much effort, it meant that he was extremely wary of Emo Xiaoan. It also indirectly meant that the conflict between the two families had worsened for nothing. Taking advantage of the situation? What do you want to do? Emo Shouting was a little uneasy and excited. In short, his emotions were complicated. Grandfather, we can forget about the fifth branch. We have fed them so much, yet they still treat us so slowly. Even if the second branch isn't good on the surface, it's not a big deal. Although the third and fourth branches haven't gone yet, they're probably the same as the second branch. They're not of much use. Our best choice is to hook up with the big branch. We have money, they have power. It's a great combination. Hook up. Emo Shouting was no longer in the mood to argue about Yoon Chujia's choice of words. He said disapprovingly, "That's easy for you to say. The big house is a legitimate branch of the family. Why would they take a fancy to us? Emo Xiaoquan may be nice to us on the surface, but that's only on the surface. Emo Xiaoquan is obviously not a good candidate. That person is too conservative and doesn't have the ability to do great things. The person we want to hook up with is the first elder, the actual person in charge of the family." Yoon Chujia's eyes flashed with cunningness. "First elder? Fong Chao, you don't think that because you have obtained a pill furnace today, you think that the first elder will look at you differently, do you? You are too naive." Emo Shouting shook his head. Fong Chao was still too young and naive. Yoon Chujio giggled. "Grandfather, I am not that stupid." We need to take things slowly. If we can't meet once, then we will meet twice. If we can't meet twice, then we will meet 3 times. If we can't meet 3 times, then we will meet every day. Hey Indinovel, you just need to do as I say. Don't worry. Even if I can't hook up with the first elder, nothing will happen. The people in the 5th house simply think that I want to turn from a sparrow into a phoenix. Emo Shouting still felt that this matter was too mysterious. He sighed. "Fong Chao, even if what you say is true, will the first elder see you?" Yoon Chujio curled her lips. "Grandfather, trust me. Others may not be able to see the first elder, but I will. Every time I go, he will see me." Emo Shouting felt that Yoon Chujio had a fever. Not to mention her. Even the 5th elder did not dare to say such words. How could he meet the first elder at will? This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Emo Shouting glared at Yoon Chujio. "Fong Chao, how can you meet the great elder just because you want to? Although everything you've said is correct, this path is not feasible. Grandfather, why don't we make a bet? After breakfast the day after tomorrow, you can bring me to the main room. I promise that the great elder will meet me," Yoon Chujio said with a smile. Emo Shouting noticed that Yoon Chujio sounded very confident. In addition, the temptation of returning to the East Continent was too great. So he gritted his teeth. "All right, if you can't see the first elder the day after tomorrow, then you should behave yourself from now on. Don't cause any more trouble." After Yoon Chujio nodded in agreement, the grandfather and grandson chatted as they ate. In the afternoon, Emo Yongfei accompanied them to the 3rd branch of the Emo family. Just as Yoon Chujio expected, the 3rd branch treated Emo Shouting and Yoon Chujio in the same way as the 2nd branch. The two of them did not see the 3rd elder either. As Emo Shouting and Yoon Chujio bade farewell, Emo Xiaogui only asked them to stay for a short while. His attitude was very perfunctory. The next morning, the grandfather and grandson were treated the same way in the 4th branch of the Emo family. They did not see the 4th elder either. After chatting for a while, they left and returned to the 5th branch of the Emo family. Pandan 0 Vel. C0M. When no one was around, Yoon Chujio whispered, "Grandfather, I'm a smart girl. Otherwise, these stingy people would not give us a single cent. We've suffered a huge loss." Emo Shouting was naturally uncomfortable being treated so slowly. He was even more concerned about Yoon Chujio's plan. "Fong Cao, will you really see the first elder tomorrow?" "Grandfather, don't worry. Which of the things I promised you haven't been fulfilled? However, when we arrive at the main room tomorrow, you will have to listen to some sarcasm and receive a few looks of disdain. You have to bear with it." Yoon Chujio blinked. Although Emo Shouting was a sly old fox, they had common interests and they needed to maintain a good relationship. "That's not a big deal. But grandfather still feels that the first elder might not be willing to see you. If the first elder doesn't see you, don't mess around. Do you hear me?" Emo Shouting warned worriedly. This Feng Chao was fearless. There was no way to predict what she would do in the next moment. After Yun Chuzhou made her promise, she left Mo Xiaoting's courtyard and returned to her new moon pavilion. As soon as she entered the courtyard, she heard Mo Fengjiao say impatiently, "Mo Fengjiao, where have you been? Why have you only just returned?" Yun Chuzhou was dumbfounded. Was Mo Fengjiao crazy? What the hell did she have to do with where I went? Was she addicted to my insults? Although she was complaining in her heart, her face was full of smiles as she said, "Sister Fengjiao, why are you so free today? Why are you looking for me?" Mo Fengjiao glared at her and asked, "I heard that you fooled Mo Fengjiu yesterday?" Yun Chuzhou shook her head. "Sister Fengjiao, how would I have the guts to fool Sister Fengjiu? I was just joking with her, but she got angry." Mo Fengjiao showed a gloating look on her face. Others have praised her for her good looks, wisdom, demure, but she was only so. She was actually fooled by you. Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes and did not say anything. It seemed that not only did the older generation of this family fight fiercely, even Mo Fengjiao and the others did not get along with each other on the surface. The corners of this fellow's mouth curled up. Good, very good. This baby loves such chaotic situations the most. It's really fun. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Mo Fengjiao asked Yun Chuzhou some more details, and Yun Chuzhou told her everything she knew. She imitated Mo Feng's expression and language perfectly. Mo Fengjiao laughed until her flowers trembled, feeling very relieved. Mo Fengjiao, I didn't expect you to be so capable. Seeing that you made me so happy today, I'll give you a favor. Let me tell you, among the girls in the Mo family, you shouldn't provoke Sister Fengbing. Otherwise you'll die a horrible death. Mo Fengjiao pouted. Sister Fengjiao, why don't I understand? I met Sister Fengbing when I went to visit her in the big room. Although she looked a little cold, she looked okay. Why did you say that she's hard to provoke? Yun Chuzhi's eyes flashed. She did not think that Mo Fengjiao would be so kind. Humph! You are indeed ignorant. Not only does Sister Fengbing have a high spiritual power, but her maternal family is a second-class family. Although her mother is the daughter of a concubine, she is also much taller than others. Therefore, Sister Fengbing looks like a fairy who does not live in the mortal world. In fact, she has never put us cousins in her eyes. Sister Fengbing heard Feng Chao, who used to be in the fourth room, say a few nasty words to her. Sister Fengbing directly slapped her twice, and even threatened that if she heard it again, she would make Feng Chao unable to speak. Mo Fengjiao, I heard that the Great Elder gave you an alchemy furnace. Sister Fengbing must be very uncomfortable, and might find trouble with you. So you better not go to the Great Room in the future. If you go, Sister Fengbing might break your leg. Mo Fengjiao said in disdain. Her words were full of provocation. Yun Chuzhou secretly curled her lips. She felt that Mo Fengjiao was exaggerating. Mo Fengbing's mother was only a concubine daughter of a second-class family. What kind of extraordinary means could she have? If she was really so favored, the Great Elder would not choose to use the medicine of tigers and wolves to intimidate the other four chambers. Yun Chuzhou rolled her eyes and understood Mo Fengjiao's intentions. Mo Fengjiao probably thought that she was a fool. Since she dared to tease Mo Fengjiu of the second branch, she might be persuaded by her and cause trouble for Mo Fengbing. She wondered if Mo Fengjiao was crazy? Did she think that everyone else was a fool? Of course, there was another possibility. Mo Xiaoan had instructed Mo Fengjiao to say this. The purpose was obvious. It was to make Guangshunzi stay away from the main branch and firmly control Guangshunzi in the hands of the fifth branch. Sister Fengjiao, thank you for your reminder. However, I feel that Sister Fengbing should be reasonable and won't target me for no reason. If she is really that unreasonable, Grandfather Xiaoquan won't let her off. It just so happens that I have nothing to do tomorrow, so I'll let grandfather bring me to the big house to visit again. I'd like to see if Sister Fongbing will target me. Yun Chujo said somewhat unwillingly. HMPH, since you don't listen to my advice, don't blame me if something happens in the future. Mo Fangio's eyes flashed with a hint of pride. This country bumpkin was indeed fooled. It would be better if she fought with Mo Fongbing. No matter who was the one who suffered the loss, it would be a relief. Yun Chujo caught a glimpse of Mo Fangio's expression and knew that it was the first possibility that she guessed. It was not Mo Zioan's instructions. This was also good. If this was the case, she would have an excuse to go to the main room tomorrow to avoid Mo Zioan's suspicion. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Mo Fangjiao rambled on and on. The main content was that Mo Fongbing was not to be trifled with, and she advised Yun Chujo not to seek humiliation. However, instead of persuading her, it was better to say that she was provoking her. When Mo Fangjiao saw that Yun Chujo could not wait to go and fight with Mo Fongbing, she was very pleased. She was just a country bumpkin. The last time at the wedding banquet, she had been careless. Otherwise, this country bumpkin wouldn't have been able to make her suffer. After a while, Mo Fangjiao left the New Moon Pavilion satisfied. Yun Chujo looked at Mo Fangjiao's back and smiled. It was not bad to have such a smart-ass assistant. The next day, after breakfast, Mo Shouting sent a maid to inform Mo Xiaoan that Yun Chujo did not know much about alchemy, so he wanted to bring Yun Chujo to meet the first elder. Coincidentally, Mo Fangjiao came to pay her respects to Mo Xiaoan and old Madame Wang. Mo Fangjiao told Mo Xiaoan about what happened last night. Grandfather, I don't think Mo Fangjiao is going to meet the first elder. After all, the first elder can't possibly meet her. She must have been urged by me to find trouble with Sister Fongbing, and lied to her grandfather to ask him about the pills. Mo Xiaoan stroked his beard. He felt that Mo Fangjiao's words made sense. How could he meet the great elder so easily? Mo Shouting was too easy to fool. He had actually been fooled by that little girl, Mo Fangjiao. But it didn't matter if they ran into a snag. That way, they would be even more loyal to their fifth wife. If Mo Fangjiao and Mo Fongbing were to fight, that would be even better. Mo Xiaoquan had previously said that he was going to teach him a lesson. Let's see how he would have the face to lecture others this time. Fangjiao, you've done well. You've really improved, Mo Xiaoan praised. Mo Fangjiao's face turned red as she said a few words of modesty and embarrassment. However, her heart was bursting with joy. This country bumpkin had brought her a lot of benefits. Meanwhile, Mo Shouting and Yun Chujo had already arrived outside the Mo family's main house. Since they had already been here once, the grandfather and grandson did not need someone from the fifth house to lead the way. Instead, they walked straight to the front door of the Mo family's house. The guards from the main house had seen Mo Shouting and Yun Chujo before, so they were quite polite. After bowing, they went in to report. Mo Xiaoquan couldn't help but frown when he heard the guards report. What was Guang Xuanji doing here again? Was it because he didn't eat last time that he wanted to make up for it this time? Mo Xiaoquan pursed his lips. He was indeed a small-minded person, but since he was already here, he couldn't just shut the door. He suppressed the impatience in his heart and allowed his son, Mo Yongji, to invite the grandfather and grandson to the living room. Big brother, I have a presumptuous request for you this time. Fang Chao has been stuck with a difficult alchemy problem for the past few days, and she had to beg me to bring her here to meet uncle. What do you think? Mo Shouting braced himself and said the lines that Yun Chujo had prepared for him. Mo Xiaoquan couldn't help but frown. This Mo Shouting was really arrogant. Did he think that anyone could meet his father just because they wanted to? Did he think that just because his father gave the little girl a pill furnace, he would treat her differently? He really didn't know his own limits. As Mo Xiaoquan thought of this, his expression darkened as he said, Brother Shouting, it's not that I'm unreasonable. It's just that father is very busy and old. If Feng Chao has any questions regarding alchemy, I can help her find an alchemist to answer them. Don't worry, our house will take care of the binding. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Mo Ziding's face turned red. He could naturally tell that Mo Shaoquan was taunting him. If Yun Chuzhou had not warned him beforehand, he would have left with a flick of his sleeve. Big brother, you've misunderstood me. Our Guangshunzi can still take the responsibility. It's mainly because this Feng Chao girl has already set her eyes on uncle. I have no choice, Mo Shouting said with a sigh. Yun Chuzhou knew it was time for her to go on stage, so she smiled and said, Grandfather Shaoquan, you may not know this, but after I return home, my mind is filled with the teachings of the Great Elder. I just want to see the Great Elder one more time. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep or eat in peace. It's like I've lost my soul. The corners of Mo Shaoquan and Mo Yongji's eyes twitched. This Mo Feng Chao was really thick-skinned. But it was understandable. She must have wanted the Great Elder to have a favorable impression of her. She might even be able to stay in the Eastern continent. Her ambition was quite high. Mo Zioquan's expression turned even colder. Feng Chao, I will pass on your filial piety. As for the pill, forget it. Pandin Zero Vels Mo Shouting wished he could find a hole and hide in it. He had said that it wouldn't work, yet this Feng Chao had said that it would work. But now that she had been rebuked, what was she going to do? Yun Chuzhou sighed, all right, since Grandfather Shaoquan has said so, as a junior, I can't force it. However, I have refined some pills for great-grandfather to strengthen his body and bones. I hope Grandfather Shaoquan can help me pass them on to him as a show of filial piety. Mo Shaoquan felt disdain in his heart, but he forced a smile on his face. Feng Chao's filial piety is commendable. Don't worry, I will definitely pass them on to father. Mo Shouting received Yun Chuzhi's glance. Although he was a little confused, he still said, Big brother, Feng Chao and I still have some other matters to attend to. I won't disturb you any longer. We will take our leave now. Mo Shaoquan did not try to convince him to stay for a while, then he let the two of them leave. After leaving the house, they arrived at a relatively remote corner. Mo Ziding's face was dark as he said unhappily, Feng Chao, didn't you say that the first elder would definitely meet you? Why did you change your mind midway? Grandfather, of course we have to put bait first when fishing. We are here to put bait. Don't worry, the big fish will bite sooner or later. Don't worry. Let's go and have a good stroll. You can't stay in the mansion all the time. Yun Chuzhou did not care about Mo Ziding's dark expression. He was very confident. She was now a cash cow, so the most Mo Shouting could do was give her some face. He wouldn't do anything to her. As expected, Mo Shouting glared at her and did not say anything else. The grandfather and grandson arrived at West City. As soon as the merchants in West City saw Yun Chuzhou, they all smiled and said obsequiously, Miss Feng Chao, you're here? Miss Feng Chao, come visit our silk shop. Miss Feng Chao, our snack shop has a new batch of delicious food. Come in and have a look. I'll give you a 10% discount. Mo Shouting was dumbfounded. But he quickly thought of the gift and understood. These people must have thought that Feng Chao was here to purchase more food. That's why they were so enthusiastic. Yun Chuzhou had always been good at acting. She smiled as she chatted with everyone. Not long after, she became friends with the shopkeepers. It was as if she was one of the shopkeepers on the street. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. The corners of Mo Ziding's eyes twitched. If he wasn't aware of this, He would have thought that Feng Chao was also the owner of a shop. This little girl was simply too sociable. A moment later, Yun Chuzhou returned with a bunch of gifts from various shops, such as candied fruits and handkerchiefs. Grandfather, let's go to a restaurant for a meal. Emo Xiaoting felt that even if this little girl didn't do anything, she could still make a fortune with just her mouth. She was too good at lying. A few words of flattery were enough to make the shopkeepers lose their minds. After the grandfather and grandson arrived at the restaurant, they asked for a private room and ordered a large table of food to eat. Emo Xiaoting's mind was preoccupied as he ate, while Yun Chujia's mouth was filled with oil. She couldn't help but praise. The food on the Eastern continent is much better than the food on the Western continent. I bet the ingredients are filled with spiritual energy. Just for this delicious food, I'm going to stay on the Eastern continent. Emo Xiaoting's mouth twitched. There was no other good-for-nothing reason. But you're dreaming. The first elder did not even see him. It seemed, his return to the Eastern continent was going to be ruined. While the grandfather and grandson were eating, Emo Xiaoquan did not give the pills Yun Chuzhou gave him to the first elder. After Emo Xiaoting and Yun Chuzhou left, he opened the bottle and looked inside. Inside was a level 8 bone tempering pill. He could not help but curl his lips. It's only a level 8 bone tempering pill. Although it's high grade, it's not a high grade pill. There's no need to distract father. At this moment, the great elder sent for Emo Xiaoquan. Emo Xiaoquan couldn't help but feel a little confused. He quickly rushed to the great elder's study room. Father, are you looking for me? Although the great elder was in better spirits than the day before, he still looked weak. He nodded his head and asked, I heard that Xiaoting and the little girl are here? Emo Xiaoquan was a little unhappy. He knew that the great elder had always been worried about him. Many servants only listened to the great elder's arrangements. As a result, the things that happened in the main residence couldn't be hidden from the great elder. Emo Xiaoquan was unhappy, so he blamed his anger on Emo Xiaoting's grandfather and grandson. Yes, Xiaoting brought Feng Chao with him. He said that Feng Chao wanted to ask you about alchemy, but I sent him away. First, I thought that Xiaoting wasn't bad. I didn't expect him to be so ignorant. Who does he think he is? He's overestimating himself to want to meet you. The first elder furrowed his brows. He also felt that Emo Xiaoting and Yun Chuzhou were too rash. Even if they wanted to get close to him, they should have waited a while before coming back. But they actually came today. It seemed that they had overestimated the little girl. Emo Xiaoquan saw the first elder's frown. He then continued, Father, the people from Guangshanzi have been in the Western continent for a long time, so their horizons are naturally limited. When they suddenly see the prosperity of the Eastern continent, they are mesmerized. If there's a chance, I'll just give them a few words. You should stop worrying about these things and rest in peace. The first elder nodded. Since that's the case, you can go back. Pendinovel. Emo Xiaoquan took a few steps forward and thought of Yun Chujia's bottle of grade 8 bone tempering pills. He could not help but mock, Father, oh right, that little girl gave me a bottle of pills before she left and asked me to give it to you. I thought it was some incredible medicinal pill, but in the end it turned out to be a grade 8 bone tempering pill. Even though it's a high grade one, it can't be considered good. What did you say? The first elder abruptly interrupted Emo Xiaoquan's words and asked loudly. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Emo Xiaoquan was shocked and his face was at a loss. Father, what happened to you? The first elder calmed himself down and asked, Give me the medicinal pill that the fragrant grass gave you. Emo Xiaoquan handed the medicinal pill to the first elder, and his face was filled with bafflement. It was only a grade 8 bone tempering pill. Why did father have such a big reaction? The first elder took the porcelain bottle and opened the lid to take a look. There were indeed 10 high-grade bone tempering pills inside. He could not help but frown. Was this little girl intentional or unintentional? Novel if it was unintentional, then it was too much of a coincidence. After all, she was already able to refine grade 10 pills. Wouldn't it be more sincere if she directly gifted grade 10 pills? Why would she gift grade 8 bone-tempering pills? If it was intentional, how much would she know? Could it be that she was gifting this bottle of medicinal pills to attract his attention? Mo Xiaoquan saw the change in the first elder's expression and asked in puzzlement, "Father, isn't this a level 8 bone-tempering pill? Is there anything special about it?" The first elder sighed. "You also know that previously, in order to intimidate Xiaoan, I consumed the hidden dragon pill. That medicinal pill is extremely harmful to the body. Only a level 20 rank 7 creation pill can completely remove the poison in the body. However, a level 27 transformation life creation pill is simply not available on the market. I can only use the bone quenching pill instead. Although the effect cannot be compared to the 7 transformation life creation pill, it can still have some effect." "Ah, Father, are you saying that Mo Fangchao knew that you took the hidden dragon pill, so she gave you the bone-quenching pill? This is impossible, right? Besides you and me, no one else knows about this matter. How did she find out? I reckon that she only has this bottle of bone-quenching pill on her, which is a grade 8 medicinal pill, so I gave it to you." Mo Xiaoquan did not quite believe that Yun Chuzhou had done it on purpose. If that was the case, this little girl was too strange, right? The great elder also did not quite believe it, but he had a suspicious nature. After pondering for a moment, he said, "No matter what, you find an excuse to call Fangchao over tomorrow. I'll test her." "Father, it's fine if she didn't mean it. But if she really finds out that you've taken the hidden dragon pill, what do you plan to do? Do you need me to think of a way to shut her up forever?" Mo Xiaoquan knew that the matter was of great importance. If the other 4 rooms heard about the hidden dragon pill, it would be bad. The great elder frowned. "Let's test her first. Guang Shunzi's business is very important to us. If we can avoid falling out, let's not fall out." Although Xiaoting was in charge of Guangshun's business, many of his ideas were made by Mo Fangchao. "If we kill her, the loss will be on us. Then we'll do as you say. Tomorrow I'll find a reason to call Mo Fangchao over." The next day, Yun Chuzhou had just eaten breakfast when Steward Xie came over. "Miss Fangchao, Miss Fangbing of the main house has invited you and Miss Fangjiao over to the residence to admire the flowers." "Okay, I'll be there in a moment." Yun Chujia's eyes flashed. It looked like the fish had taken the bait. After returning to the house, Yun Chuzhou took out her voice transmission talisman and informed Mo shouting. She then left the Broken Moon Pavilion and ran into Mo Fangjiao, who was looking for her. "Sister Fangchao, I advise you to pretend to be sick. Sister Fangbing must have taken the opportunity to teach you a lesson. Otherwise, why would she reward you with flowers?" Mo Fangjiao gloated. Yun Chuzhou pretended to be unconvinced. I'm not afraid of her. She wasn't there when I went yesterday. Otherwise, if she dares to provoke me, I'll teach her a lesson." Mo Fangjiao finally managed to hide the pride in her heart. "If that's the case, then let's go. I'm telling you, if you provoke Sister Fangbing, I won't help you." Yun Chuzhou gave a cold snort with a prideful look and didn't say anything. Although there were 2 other girls in the 5th room, they were both stepdaughters, so Mo Fangbing didn't invite them. Yun Chuzhou and Mo Fangjiao arrived at the door of the main room. Logically speaking, Mo Fangbing was the master, so she should come out to welcome them. However, Mo Fangbing did not come out. She only sent a maid to lead the way. Mo Fangjiao gave Yun Chuzhou a look. Did you see what she meant? This Mo Fangbing did not look up to them at all. Mo Fangjiao saw the anger on Yun Chuzhia's face and felt even more proud. What an overconfident country bumpkin. With your identity, you still want to compete with Mo Fangbing? Just wait to be tortured. The maid brought Mo Fangjiao and Yun Chuzhou around and arrived at a pavilion in the back garden of the house. In the pavilion, there was only Mo Fangbing and a maid. On the stone table, there were some pastries and spiritual fruits. When Emo Fongbing saw the two of them, she did not get up. She only nodded coldly. The two sisters are here? Come and sit. Emo Fongjiao pursed her lips. If she had not come to watch the show, she would not have bothered to look at Emo Fangbing's cold face. What was so great about it? Wasn't she just the daughter of a concubine? She was pretending to be noble. It was just the right time for the country bumpkin to remove her mask. Panda novel. Emo Fongjiao turned her head to look at Yun Chujio when she thought of this. When she saw Yun Chujio's expression, she almost fainted from anger. Yun Chujio's face was smiling like a flower. Sister Fongbing, if I didn't know that you were sitting here, I would have thought that a fairy had descended to the mortal world. Your aura is exactly the same as a fairy. I really admire you. A thought flashed through Emo Fangjio's mind. Damn it, she was fooled by this Emo Fongbing again. She kept saying that she was not afraid of Emo Fongbing, but what happened? She was flattering her like a lackey. Why did she do this? Emo Fongbing heard Yun Chujio's flattering words. Although she knew that the Emo Fongbing in front of her was a scheming person, she still enjoyed it. She said indifferently, "Come and sit." Yun Chujio walked up the steps and entered the pavilion. Emo Fangjio's mind could not process it for a moment, so she could only glare at Yun Chujio fiercely, and also walked into the pavilion. After the two of them sat down, Emo Fongbing signaled the maid to pour 2 cups of tea for them and then stopped talking. The atmosphere in the pavilion was very awkward. If Emo Fongjiao hadn't figured out Yun Chujio's intention, she would have found an excuse to leave. This pretentious Emo Fongbing looked so high and mighty. It was really annoying. When Emo Fongjiao was feeling down, she heard a shameless voice say, Sister Fongbing, I'm a little hungry on the way here. Can I have some pastries and fruits? Emo Fongjiao couldn't hold it in anymore. Eat, eat, eat. You only know how to eat all day long. Are you a reincarnated hungry ghost? Sister Fongjiao, I really can't answer this question. After all, this person always drinks Meng Pa soup in his reincarnation. Do you still remember whether you were a pig or a little bastard in your previous life? Yun Chujio asked seriously. Emo Fongbing, who was drinking tea, almost choked to death. This Emo Fangbing's words were really too sarcastic. I must tear your stinky mouth apart today. Emo Fongjiao was so angry that she was about to explode. Sister Fongjiao, why are you so anxious? I was just asking. You weren't a pig or a little bastard in your previous life. Could it be that you're a little donkey? Yun Chujio stood up and hid behind Emo Fongbing as she said with a smile. Emo Fongjiao was so angry that her hands were trembling. Sister Fongbing, get out of the way. I must teach this country bumpkin a lesson today. Emo Fongbing stretched out her hand to stop Emo Fongjiao and said coldly, Fongjiao, I am the master today. If you want to fight, go back to your 5th room and fight again. Emo Fongjiao gritted her teeth but still did not dare to go against Emo Fongbing. She glared at Yun Chujio fiercely. Emo Fongjiao, if you have the ability, don't go back to your 5th room today. Otherwise, I will not let you off. After saying that, Emo Fongjiao ignored Yun Chujio and left angrily. Emo Fongbing gave a look to a maid who chased after her. On the surface, she escorted Emo Fongjiao out of the room, but in fact, she was monitoring her. Emo Fongbing glanced at Yun Chujio, who was chewing on the fruit, and said coldly, Emo Fongbing, you deliberately drove Emo Fongjiao away, right? Yun Chujio took 2 bites of the spiritual fruit and said with a smile, Sister Fongbing, why do you say that? Emo Fongbing coldly snorted. I admit that you are indeed very smart, but your little tricks are useless in front of me. I don't know what kind of bewitching soup you gave great-grandfather. Not only did you reward him with an alchemy furnace for the first time, but you even asked me to find a reason to call you to the manor. I'm warning you, don't have any improper thoughts. You're just a junior from a branch. My great-grandfather won't value you. Yun Chujo casually tossed the fruit core behind her. Then, she took out a handkerchief and wiped her hands. Sister Fangbing, you're really thinking too much. I'm just here to ask for some advice on alchemy. Moreover, you're the eldest great-grandfather's great-granddaughter. Are you afraid that a little girl like me, who has 5 servings, will compete with you for favor? Mo Fangbing's thoughts were exposed by Yun Chujo. The cold expression on her face could not be maintained. Mo Fangbing, I don't have time to argue with you. Remember what I said today. If you anger me, I won't be like that idiot Mo Fangjiao, who will only scare you. Yun Chujio's face was still smiling. Sister Fangbing, I have a very good memory. I will remember every word you said. By the way, I think the spirit fruits and pastries taste good. Can I take them with me? Mo Fangbing's face stiffened. Then she glared at Yun Chujo and said coldly to the other maid, take her to my great-grandfather's courtyard. Yun Chujo never knew what embarrassment was. She put all the food on the stone table into her storage ring and jumped down from the pavilion. Before she left, she looked back and smiled. Sister Fangbing, thank you for your warm hospitality. Don't worry, I'm really just here to ask about alchemy. We will meet often in the future. Prepare more delicious food for me. Mo Fangbing looked at Yun Chujio's back and was so angry that she smashed the stone table into pieces. She knew that she had lost the first round, because she was so angry with Yun Chujio. But Yun Chujio was not affected at all. Her composure was still not strong enough. Sister maid, how should I address you? Yun Chujio smiled and tried to get close to the maid. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. The servant girl was obviously confused by the way Yun Chujio addressed her. She paused for a moment before answering, Miss Fntao, you can just call me Kyun. I can't bear the way you addressed me just now. TSK, even Sister Fangbing's servant girl is so cultured. It really makes me feel inferior. Kyun, let me ask you, how many years have you served Sister Fangbing? This servant has served the eldest miss for 5 years. The corner of Kyun's eyes twitched. Feeling inferior? That smug expression of yours should be described as smug. Okay? 5 years. Then there was no value in poaching her. She would probably be loyal long ago unless something happened. Kyun, I think the pastries just now taste pretty good. I wonder how the food in our residence tastes like? Since there was no value in poaching her, then she would tease her. It's alright. Kyun staggered. Even in her dreams, she did not expect Yun Chujio to ask such a question. Not to mention the young ladies of the family. Even an ordinary family like Biyun would not ask her if the food was good when she was a guest. This person was really good. Not only did she ask, she even shamelessly said oui. She was really friendly. You are really humble. To be able to make such delicious pastries, the taste of the food is not bad either. I must stay for lunch today, Yun Chujio said with a smile as if she did not see Kai Yun's disdain. Kai Yun did not say anything. What a joke. What else could she say? Could it be that she could not stay? For the first time, Kai Yun felt that the distance from the garden to the great elder's courtyard was so long because Yun Chujio kept chattering beside her. Basically, it was all about the food in the big house. For example, what did Mo Fangbing usually eat for 3 meals a day? For example, what was the best dish in the big kitchen? When Kaiyun saw the great elder's courtyard, she excitedly said loudly, Miss Fangchao, the great elder's courtyard is right in front. This servant will send you here. This servant will take my leave. After saying that, Kaiyun hurriedly ran away, afraid that Yun Chujio would ask the great elder what he ate for 3 meals a day on a whim. Yun Chujio curled her lips and walked to the door of the courtyard. The guards at the door had obviously received the order, so a guard immediately brought Yun Chujio to the great elder's study. Yun Chujio saw the great elder sitting behind the desk, and the corner of her mouth twitched. She saw the great elder wrapped himself up tightly, only revealing a pair of eyes that seemed to be able to see through everything. Panda N0VLTSKTSK. Was this great elder planning to become a mummy? Feng Chao girl, you're here? I suddenly caught a cold yesterday, and I was afraid of infecting you, so I wrapped myself up so tightly. The great elder said kindly. Thank you for the great elder's love and care. I'm really touched. You should pay more attention to your body. Although Yun Chujo said that she was touched in her heart, she pursed her lips and said it nicely. She was wrapped up so tightly because she was afraid that she would see the fact that her body was weak. You came yesterday and said that you have some difficult questions to ask me about the pills. Tell me, what questions do you have? The great elder saw that Yun Chujo did not have any other expression other than being touched, and his heart became uncertain. Was it just a coincidence that this little girl gave him the bone-quenching pill? Great master. I once read in a book that there is a type of medicinal pill that can stimulate a person's potential in a short period of time. I wonder if there is such a medicinal pill? Yun Chujo asked with a smile. However, the hand in her sleeve was holding the shadow escape talisman that still had the effect of 15 minutes. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. The great elder was shocked. He did not expect Yun Chujo to ask about the hidden dragon pill so openly. A trace of killing intent flashed across his heart. However, the great elder was a suspicious person. He was afraid that Yun Chujo had a backup plan, so he decided to probe further. Thus he said, "This little girl knows quite a lot. Not bad, there is indeed such a pill. Why are you asking about this?" "Great old master, you called me here today because I gave you the bone-tempering pill yesterday, right? I won't hide it anymore. I think you must have taken the pill that I mentioned, so I gave you a bottle of bone-tempering pill." Yun Chujo decided to take the initiative to attack. "Not bad. How did you see that I took that pill?" The great old master's eyes narrowed. This little girl really knew the truth. She actually said it just like that. Was she ignorant and fearless, or did she have other plans? Yun Chujo smiled awkwardly. "Great-grandfather, I only smelled the scent of the heart-devouring vine when I was refining pills in the pill refining room. Originally, this heart-devouring vine was usually used to make heart-devouring powder, so it's nothing strange. But I also smelled the scent of zishun. I once read in an ancient book that both of these are highly toxic medicinal herbs. But if you add some other medicinal herbs, it's said to have the effect of stimulating one's potential for a short period of time. I also thought of some of the changes in Xiao An's grandfather's expression, so I guess that in order to intimidate Xiao An's grandfather, you probably took the risk to take that kind of medicinal pill." The leaves of the Guai Chao and Yun Chuji's dantian trembled. This little girl is really shameless. Did you sniff it out? Did you sniff it out? It was clearly the herb that sniffed it out. I don't know who asked me about the herb the day before yesterday, but his skin is really thick. The great elder was extremely shocked. Just based on the smell of the herb, this little girl was able to guess that he had refined the hidden dragon pill. Wasn't this talent too heaven-defying? Moreover, she was able to guess the hidden undercurrents of the Mo family from Xiao An's expression. This ability to see through the situation was too strong. Not to mention the younger generation, even Xiao Quan might not have such insight. Then why did you give me the bone-quenching pill? Although the great elder was shocked, he did not show it on his face. Besides, he was wearing a mask. "Great elder, although I don't know what kind of medicine you took, I think that stimulating people's potential in a short time is nothing more than speeding up the consumption of blood essence. The bone-quenching pill should have some effect." Although Yun Chujo looked very relaxed on the surface, she was actually very nervous. She was now completely seeking the skin of a tiger. If she was not careful, she would be silenced, so she could not make any mistakes. The great elder once again lamented Yun Chuji's amazing talent in pharmacology, But he was very suspicious of Yoon Chujia's purpose. What exactly was she going to do? Could it be that she was planning to use this to blackmail him into teaching her alchemy? Feng Chao girl, your talent in pharmacology is indeed not bad. I wonder, what is the purpose of you telling me these things? Yoon Chujia's face revealed a worried expression. Great old master, I admit that I do want to learn alchemy from you. But I am more worried about your body. That kind of medicinal pill can be said to be the medicine of tigers and wolves. It is extremely harmful to the body. Although the bone-tempering pill may have some effects, it is best to find a pill that can cure the root of the problem. Yoon Chujia's face was slightly red as she said this. It seemed that she did not know how to continue. The great elder frowned. He was asking about her purpose. What did she mean by saying all sorts of things? This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Yoon Chujio saw that the great elder was frowning. She gritted her teeth and continued with a desperate expression. Great master, I won't be shameless today. I'll tell you what I'm thinking. After I went back, I didn't sleep for almost the entire night. I also hesitated whether or not I should come and look for you. I know that the matter of you taking the medicine is of great importance. If it's not done properly, it will cause turmoil in the Mo family. So, perhaps you will imprison me in order to prevent the news from leaking out, and I will lose my freedom. However, if you really die, then the Mo family would fall into chaos. Although our Guangshuan branch is far away in the western continent, our interests are closely related. If the Mo family is in chaos, we won't be able to recover. Furthermore, this is the first time I've seen such a kind elder like you. I admire and respect you from the bottom of my heart. I don't want to just watch you die. When I think about it, I won't be able to see you in the future. My heart is about to break. Xiao Hanio, who was inside the spiritual beast pouch, almost vomited. His master's ability to lie had increased again. It was simply perfection. The great elder saw that Yoon Chujia's tears were falling and her shoulders were twitching. Clearly, she was extremely sad. Although he did not believe that Yoon Chujio had such a deep admiration for him after only meeting him once. However, his killing intent had weakened slightly. The great elder did not speak. He was ready to hear what Yoon Chujio would say next. Yoon Chujio wiped her tears with her sleeve. Then she continued, Great elder, I originally had a glimmer of hope that you would have the antidote for that medicine. However, after seeing your appearance today, I knew that you definitely did not have the antidote. Moreover, I'm afraid that the antidote would be very easy to obtain. Therefore, I have a request. You can leave me in the Eastern continent. In the future, you can personally guide me to learn alchemy skills. I will definitely help you refine the antidote. I can swear to the heavens that if these words of mine are not sincere, I will be struck to death by the heavenly lightning. My soul will scatter and I will die a horrible death. Panda N0VL. After hearing Yoon Chujia's words, the great elder did not speak for a long time. He coldly said, You are only a level 10 alchemist while I am already a level 14 alchemist. Rather than nurturing you, I might as well place my hopes on myself. Great old master, although what you said is reasonable, I have an advantage over you. That is, I am young. I can enter a famous academy or enter a large sect. This way, even if my ability is not enough to refine the antidote, I can still have a way to obtain the antidote. Yoon Chujio straightened her small waist. She said confidently. The great elder was clearly shocked by her words. After thinking about it carefully, he felt that what Yoon Chujio said might not be a bad idea. Although the level 27th transformation life creation pill wasn't available on the market, it might be available in a super sect or a first-class family. If he wanted to find a way to build a relationship with them, it would be worth it even if he had to spend a lot of money. However, although this method wasn't bad, this little girl was overestimating herself. How could she enter a well-known academy or a large sect with her talent? What a joke. Feng Chao girl, your suggestion is not bad. However, instead of nurturing you, I might as well nurture Feng Bing. After all, her talent is much better than yours. Moreover, her maternal family is a second-class family. The first elder's tone was cold. This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. When Yun Chujio heard the great elder's words, not only did she not shrink back, she even smiled. The great elder was stunned by Yun Chujio's smile. Although this little girl was not bad-looking, her usual temperament made people neglect her looks. This smile actually made people a little dazed. Great elder, although Sister Fongbing is not bad, to be honest, there is no comparison between her and me. Let's talk about talent first. I have the Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root. Who else can be as outstanding as my spirit root? Of course, you must be worried that I will be killed by Tian Dao, but am I not still alive and kicking now? My existence is reasonable. Since Tian Dao did not kill me, then it means that my existence is tacitly approved by Tian Dao. Moreover, although I am from Guangshuanji, my maternal family is a first-class family. Although my mother was removed from the Yi family back then, this blood relationship cannot be wiped out. I don't believe that the Yi family will not cherish family ties in the slightest. In the end, my greatest advantage over Sister Fongbing was that she did not have the talent to refine pills. I had the talent to refine pills. With your guidance, I would definitely be able to enter famous institutions or sections. Moreover, I might even be able to rely on this skill to make the Yi family accept me. Also, great-grandfather, although our Guangshuan branch is in the Western continent, our ability to earn money is not inferior to any other branch. My grandfather supports me in learning alchemy from you, so he will naturally express his support when the time comes. Therefore, in conclusion, Great Elder, I am your best choice. Believe me, that's right. You have to give me your trust. Not only will I be able to find the antidote, I might even be able to find a pill that will allow you to extend your life. Moreover, if there is a suitable opportunity, the Mo family might even become a second-class family, or even a first-class family. Yun Chujio was good at guessing the desires of others. She felt that the great elder was only concerned about three things. One was to save his life, and the other was to keep the power of the Mo family in his hands. The last thing was that the Mo family could become a higher-class family. As expected, Yun Chujio's words could be said to the great elder's heart. He was faintly excited. That's right, what kind of aptitude could be better than the aptitude of the Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root? Although it was possible to be obliterated by the Tian Dao, this was also a gimmick. Perhaps some academies or great sects wanted to take in people with such a special physique. Most importantly, she was the Yi family's bloodline, and she actually overlooked this point. If she could make good use of it, this was a way to quickly obtain the antidote. Moreover, the little girl's words were very clear. Guang Xuanji had clearly expressed his attitude. As long as they could think of a way to return to the Eastern continent, then Guang Xuanji would become the big branch's money-making tool in the future. Although the great elder was extremely excited in his heart, he still said coldly, "What you said makes some sense. However, this matter is of great importance. I will think about it again. If the matter of me taking the medicine were to be leaked, you know the consequences. Great elder, don't worry. I understand the stakes. If I didn't have your permission, if I were to tell others about this matter, I would be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." This guy had almost become a mantra anyway. This guy was eager to be struck by lightning. Hearing Yun Chujio's words, the great elder nodded. "In that case, you can go back. After I have thought about it, I will find a reason to call you over." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said with a smile, "Great elder, I have a presumptuous request. Can you let me go back to the fifth room after I'm full? I'm starving." This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. The great elder's face stiffened. He had never expected Yun Chuzhou to make such a request. He paused for a moment, then he called a guard in. Tell the kitchen to prepare an exquisite feast. Feng Chao and I will have lunch together. After the guard agreed, he left. Yun Chuzhou thanked him with a smile. This is so troublesome. I thought that eating a few buns would be enough. I didn't expect you to reward me with a feast. You are the kindest elder I have ever met. The corner of the great elder's eyes twitched. Sit there and wait. I think lunch will be ready in less than an hour. Yun Chuzhou naturally did not stand on ceremony. She swaggered on the chair. This fellow would not let go of a single opportunity. She took this opportunity to pick a few questions about alchemy to consult the great elder. The questions this fellow picked were very difficult to come to a conclusion. This was the only way to show her outstanding talent. Moreover, this kind of question was beneficial for the two of them to discuss and deepen the great elder's impression of her. Yun Chuzhou and the great elder were chatting enthusiastically over here. Some people in the large room could not sit still anymore. Mo Fongbing had sent a maid to keep an eye on the great elder's courtyard. She had thought that Yun Chuzhou would come out in 15 minutes at most. After all, the great elder liked peace and quiet, so he wouldn't talk to her all the time. But after waiting for a while, Yun Chuzhou didn't come out. Moreover, the maid ran over and reported, Miss, I heard from Cui Yan in the kitchen that the guards in the great elder's courtyard ordered them to prepare a good banquet. They said that they want to entertain Miss Feng Chao. What? Mo Fongbing stood up in shock. How is this possible? Not to mention that smelly girl Mo Fongbing. Even her grandfather rarely had the chance to have a meal with her great-grandfather. What right did Mo Fongbing have? What right did she have? Kai Yun saw the situation and said, Eldest miss, when Miss Fongbing and this servant left, they also asked about the food in our manor. Could it be that she was too greedy, so she begged the great elder to give her a banquet? The great elder ordered her to do so out of respect? Mo Fongbing frowned. Although what you said makes sense, why does great-grandfather have to care about the face of a little girl from a branch? This Mo Fengchao is really evil. Young miss, aren't you overestimating her? She is just a branch's young miss, and her spiritual power is so low. She can't be compared to you at all, another servant Kai Xia said. Mo Fongbing didn't say anything. Although she felt that Yun Chuzhou couldn't be compared to her, she somehow felt a sense of crisis, and her heart felt uneasy. Kai Yun, follow me to see grandfather. Mo Fongbing decided to go to Missouri Zioquan's place to find out the truth. Mo Fongbing brought Kai Yun to Mo Zioquan's courtyard. After the guards passed the message, Mo Fongbing came to Mo Zioquan's study room. Fongbing, is there something you want to talk to grandfather about? Mo Xiaoquan asked with a smile. Although Mo Fongbing was a granddaughter, Mo Xiaoquan had always thought highly of her because of her good aptitude and the fact that her maternal grandfather's family was a second-class family. Grandfather, it's actually not a big deal. It's just that Sister Fengchao has been staying in great-grandfather's study room all this while. Moreover, great-grandfather even ordered the kitchen to prepare a good banquet. I feel that it's necessary to report this to you. After all, she was invited to admire the flowers in my name. What? She hasn't left yet? She's still staying for lunch? When Mo Xiaoquan heard Mo Fongbing's words, he was also quite shocked. How is this possible? After his father found out the truth, he should have dismissed that Mo Fengchao long ago. Why was she still staying for lunch? This chapter is a preview. If you want to see a faster and more up-to-date chapter, please visit for more content. Fongbing, you go back first. Grandfather will go to your great-grandfather's place to take a look. Mo Xiaoquan was suspicious. Could it be that something happened in the middle? It was better to take a look. This was the reason why Imo Fongbing came. Naturally, she stopped when things were good. After bowing, she took her leave. Imo Xiaoquan also rushed out of his own courtyard and came to the great elder's courtyard. Although he was the current head of the family, he still needed to be informed by the guards before he could enter. Very soon, the guards led Imo Xiaoquan into the courtyard. Imo Xiaoquan had yet to enter the study room when he heard the laughter of the great elder coming from inside. And it was the kind of laughter that was heartily laughing. Imo Xiaoquan could not help but frown. Ever since his father knew that his days were numbered, he rarely laughed, let alone heartily laughing. What kind of bewitching potion did that Imo Fangchao give his father? Imo Xiaoquan pushed the door open and walked in. He saw the great elder sitting behind the desk. The mask on his face had long been removed, while Yun Chuzhou was sitting on a chair at the side, holding a spirit fruit in her hand as she spoke and chewed. It was simply more leisurely and carefree than being in her own home. When Yun Chuzhou saw Imo Xiaoquan enter, she hurriedly put the spirit fruit aside, then stood up and bowed. Imo Xiaoquan waved his hand with a cold expression and then asked the great elder, "Father, I heard that you are going to hold a banquet to entertain the Fangchao girl. You haven't had a good rest recently. Why don't you let the Tian clan entertain the Fangchao girl?" The great elder glanced at Imo Xiaoquan and naturally knew his intention. However, he and Yun Chuzhou were currently discussing the issue of medicinal pills, so how could he be willing? Hence he said, "There's no need to make a fuss. Since you're here, let's eat together. It'll be more lively for the three of us to eat together." Imo Xiaoquan simply felt that the first elder was a little abnormal today. Usually, he wanted to accompany the first elder to eat, but the first elder was unwilling to be noisy. Today he actually liked to be lively again. What exactly was going on? Although Imo Xiaoquan was puzzled, he did not dare to say anything more. He sat on a chair at the side wanting to see what exactly was going on. "Fangchao girl, there's no need to bother about your grandfather. Let's continue discussing the problem from before. I think that the snake vine grass effect is still more towards relieving pain. As for the blood stasis effect that you mentioned, although it has some effect, its effect is still limited." "Great elder, I don't agree with your point of view. Although the snake vine grass blood stasis effect is limited, that's because if used together with the heavenswool grass, the blood stasis effect would be even better than the 5-leaf purple peony." The great elder was stunned at first, then slapped his thigh. "That makes sense. That makes sense. Why didn't I think of this combination? Wonderful. Really wonderful." Imo Xiaoquan knew nothing about alchemy, so the conversation between Yun Chuzhou and the great elder was like a heavenly book to him. He saw that the great elder and Yun Chuzhou were very congenial, and a trace of displeasure rose in his heart. He had some complaints towards the first elder. This Imo Fangchao was merely a junior who had taken 5 servings of it. Although he knew some medicinal properties, he did not think much of it. After a while, the banquet was served. At first, Yun Chuzhou was still pretending to be very reserved. After the first elder said that she should not be reserved, this fellow let himself go. She completely ignored Imo Xiaoquan's cold gaze and ate happily. As she ate, she even praised the taste of the food. Seeing that she was eating so sweetly, the first elder couldn't help but add half a bowl of rice. As for Imo Xiaoquan, he was very depressed. After eating less than a bowl of rice, he put down his chopsticks. "You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."